Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture as we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my good friend Preston Poulter, who has a comic coming out called Palace of the Golden Princess, which offers a fun, sexy romp through a fantasy RPG setting run by women. Issue 3 is launching soon on Kickstarter. And right now, my friend Preston is hooking people up and doing me a favor by offering a free PDF of issue 1 if they sign up for his email at pocketjackcomics.com. So you could try it before you buy it and see if you like it. So you could go and head over there and get yourself a free comic. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator Daphne Lage.
Yes, that's yes.
Yes, I got it right. I was a little nervous. So welcome to the show.
Hello. Yeah, so I guess like introductions are in order. I guess it's like, yes, hello everyone. My name is Daphne Lage, and if you hear any strange noises in the background, I share my office with a parrot. And every time I go live, that's what he goes live to. So, like I said, any strange noises in the background, that's him. So, my name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. I have been self-publishing comics since 1992. I'll let you all do the math there. And I am known for my furry fantasy adventure comic, Tall Tales, which is kind of like a Lord of the Rings adventure. It's just everyone's furry. And I am also known for my mature audiences medieval fantasy drama Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, with issue 7 launching on Kickstarter this Friday. I am also co-host with Nita Landing on the Raging to the Vlogs show every Monday and Friday on the Indie Comics Network. And you can read both my comics online if you want to try them out at Tall Tales, TAILS online.com and eagleworks.com, EGOWORKS, where you can also check out all my videos on how I make my comics here on YouTube as well at my channel at Daphne Lage, Lage Art.
So you got a lot going on, and we're going to talk about your book in particular, not Tall Tales, because that's not relevant at the moment.
Well, I just finished a Kickstarter for that. I'm in the process of mailing out the last of the Tall Tales campaign, but yes, I do have one starting.
Which means that because unfortunately, and I'm going to say it, and it might get controversial, we view campaigns that fund as successful campaigns. I view a campaign that fulfills as a successful campaign.
Yeah, so do I. I
think there's a big difference, and I think there's a different mentality. Yeah. So obviously, you are in the process of having a successful campaign. I want to get half of it.
Well, yeah, because if there's one thing that I strongly believe in is having a book finished before the campaign starts. This is actually the proof to issue 7. So it's already been printed. So the second the campaign is over, within 3 weeks, I'm getting the books in and shipping them out. I know it's a very strange thing to make it as like a marketing thing, but it's like I kind of pride myself in the idea that nobody is waiting 2 years.
Let's actually talk about my book before we really get into the books. I think this is actually really interesting. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you've been the victim of this. I've been the victim of this, where somebody just doesn't know what they're doing in comics, and they get in over their head, or they just ghost everybody and they say, fuck it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's been a few, and there's been somebody who's actually moved the goalposts from it being a graphic novel to being floppies, which is a whole bigger issue.
Oh, that's a little bait and switchy. So,
that to me is a contractual problem. If you're late by 2 months, that's not a problem as much as it's an inconvenience. But what is that like? Because everybody has a different philosophy, I feel, on Kickstarter, where some people say, look, I'm not at the stage financially where I can go and finish a book before. I have half of it done, but I'm raising money so I can finish the other half and print it. And some people say, look, I'm going to go eat the cost of producing the book, doing the art, doing the covers, all the expenditures that come with it, but I need money to print it. And actually Kickstarter comes in. And so what is this like? Because I think, there's nothing wrong with either or. The only thing that's wrong in Kickstarter is not delivering a project.
Right.
within a reasonable amount of time, or at least informing people that there's a hiccup in the system. If you're going to be late by 6 months, but you let people know, my experience is nobody's ever angry.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of like the old joke that a minute depends on what side of the bathroom door you're on. And it's kind of like that it's like, when I personally want to buy from a Kickstarter, I understand the production involved, but at the same time, I still want that product in my hand within a reasonable amount of time. And I'm pretty much like, depending on what kind of book it is, like I know that a lot of like trade paperbacks, especially hardcovers, they mostly don't get printed in the United States. So I know that once something goes overseas, it can take up to 6 months to fulfill. So okay, I can understand that. And I can, and depending on the book, I'll be more than willing to wait for that. But just recently I got a book that I was waiting almost 3 years for. Like I pledged to this book in February 2020. And the only reason they could give for the book taking this long was because they said the artist didn't have the time to put the book together. And no, that's not what you tell people. That's not what you tell people when, that's not what I want to hear. I mean, it's like if they had said, yeah, it's, we're having, it's in China, it's literally on a boat and whatnot. And it's like, okay, fine. But if you're going to tell me that something that I paid for isn't delivering because your creative team can't be bothered to find the time to put it together, that's somebody I'm never going to spend money on again. But and this was something that when I started doing Kickstarters, that I swore that I was never going to have that problem by making sure that I didn't put myself in that situation. Like I said, every book, every campaign that I run, the book is finished. As somebody who does everything myself, I mean, I understand that I have that luxury to do that. But I think that if you are running a Kickstarters as part of your business, honestly, I really do think that you do sometimes have to eat the cost of being able to get your book done so that your Kickstarters can fulfill successfully. Because if you're putting out a book a year, honestly, why should I care? And I want to care. It's like books, people put out books that I want to care about. But if I have to wait a year, 2 years for every issue to come out, it's me like watching Netflix. They cancel everything after the first season. So what do? I stop committing to new shows. So I don't want to put my potential readers and even my current fans in that situation where they have to wonder whether it's even worth the time and the money to put into my project because they don't know when the next issue is coming out.
To even go further into this, because I don't mind waiting 4 months, but after a while, as a customer, the way I feel is that 4, 5, 6 months, I'm now getting antsy.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially, as somebody who buys and sells on eBay as well, and I'm buying a retail package, you got to realize that you're costing me money every day that I am waiting. If I back your thing on day one,
right,
package, I am not counting those 30 days, but those 30 days cost me money.
Right.
I mean, so from a retail perspective, if you're 6 months out, that's 6 months that I'm not selling your product to get
right.
money. And then from a reader's side, I mean, I've lost interest in a bunch of projects.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What's this? And other people's projects I'm still interested in. So like Tom Hutchinson, I'm very interested in what he puts out, but he's also built the name. Pat Chan has built the name. But if you're brand spanking new, unless you have a cover artist or a concept or something
Right.
else, this is ridiculous. In which
Yeah.
I think like Bigfoot Moonshine,
Right.
that book could take 3 years, and I would still be interested the day it comes in
Right.
because it's so ridiculous, the concept.
Right.
For,
But the thing is, though, after waiting 3 years, it's like, are you willing to wait another 3 years for the second issue?
oh, they're doing all 4 issues at once, so that's
Oh, okay. So,
not
all
a
right.
problem. If you're
Yeah.
giving me 4 issues at the same time,
Right.
it takes you a year and a half to do it. You're giving me the whole story.
Right.
But I get the point. And so
Right.
what is this like, though? Because I think it's really important where I think a lot of people do not understand that
Yeah.
you need to feed me as
Yeah.
I'm hungry for content, I guess,
Mhm.
is where I'm at. And if you're not going to give me 2 issues minimally a year
Right.
of your story, if not more, or 3,
Right.
I mean, I don't know if I want to commit unless you're giving me 100 pages a year.
Right. Yeah,
20
it really, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it really depends on what I'm waiting for. But, it's like I'm at a point now where it's like, I would rather wait 2 years for you to have that book finally available than to pay for a Kickstarter now and then wait 2 years to maybe get the book. I mean, because it's like JD Calderon, because he's my husband. We talk about this stuff all the time.
No, I never knew that.
Yeah, no. Yeah. We're in the same house. Right now he's working, but so we're always having this conversation. Um, and he doesn't mind waiting, but I don't know. I get irritated at waiting for a book. I guess it's because like especially lately, like my patience for media has really, really shrunk over the years. Um, and it's like, look, if you kind of like, I feel like a creator has to get me when I'm enthusiastic about your work, and it's like, if I'm enthusiastic now, I need your work now because I can lose that enthusiasm really, really quickly.
I'll be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, we were speaking before about
Uh-huh.
covers and Mount
Yeah.
Olympus, off air, everybody.
Yeah.
And Mount Olympus runs 24-hour sales.
Mhm.
And while I'm selling some of these covers, they get my attention really
Right.
quickly.
Mhm.
And they put a time limit on it.
Right.
Either I got to make a decision.
Right.
And I'm like, man, that cover just hits.
Right.
If it hits me, it's
Right.
going to hit somebody else. They're not going to have the same
Right.
24 hours in my eBay store. But
Right.
they're going to connect with somebody when they see it. And
Yeah.
I think stories are the same way.
Right.
Talking about Bigfoot Moonshine, when I saw the name and I saw the concept, I'm like, this is going to connect with me.
Right.
And then I was excited, and then I'm still excited to read
Uh-huh.
it. But then I go through stuff, and I don't want to mention anybody's books.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
I don't even want your book anymore. And
Right.
I'm getting your book. So, like,
Yeah.
how does this work? Like,
I mean, to kind of like, I guess, put it in like I guess a more familiar situation, because like the last season of The Witcher dropped. Like for the past couple of years, it's like The Witcher is like, okay, it's like that really, really caught my attention. But because of the fact that they're changing actors and this, that, and the other thing, I consider this the last season. And what happened was that in the end, it like all the nonsense killed my interest in the series. So now it's like I couldn't care less about watching it or whatnot. It's like because it's like, you know what? It's like Netflix kind of ruined the enthusiasm that I had for it. And I think that a lot of creators, when they take way too long, when they completely underestimate how long it's going to take them to do a book, they kill my interest. And like I said, it's like it's like, okay, it's like, am I going to have to wait another 2-3 years for another issue? It's like, yeah. And it's like,
let's even go further into this too, because I find that on Kickstarter, certain projects are expensive.
Right.
At $20 a pop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you're taking a while, $20 a pop, I lose interest. Your book was okay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I back people's books who are friends, and I'm like, by issue 2, I'm like, I'm not really all that interested in issue 3 at $20 a pop. I'm not interested
right. Yeah.
$120 on your series.
Right.
for something that is okay. It's not
Right.
great, and it's not that you're a bad writer per se to
Right.
my friends. It's this thing doesn't work.
Right.
And
That's an interesting thing that you bring up, because Kickstarter, it's strange in the fact that people do pay premium for individual issues, as opposed to going to your local comic book shop. I mean, it's like, I mean, that in the end, I think it's something that people are used to paying that much money. But yeah, it's like, and because they're paying that much money, there's a certain standard to that too. um
what is there in reality? And the reason why I
right.
challenge is that
Mhm.
I don't think there's a universal standard. I'll,
Right.
I'll,
For
I'll throw some names out there.
okay.
So Pat Chan, Scott
Right.
Snyder, Jeff Lemire, those are coming from mainstream comics. They
Hmm.
have a long bucket list of
Right.
things out there, and they have a certain position.
Right.
Now, somebody who I like, who I think is a good writer, Travis Gibb,
Hmm.
he is not coming from mainstream.
Right.
So his standard and his, I guess, rep for, and I don't think Travis is going to mind me saying it, is
Right.
not the same as what Pat is coming into or
Right.
Scott's coming into. And so Travis obviously puts out good work, and I think he cares about his reputation, but his standard is not the same as Pat Shan's standard,
Right.
because Pat's working for Zenoscope and then doing Destiny New York. And
Right.
Pat doesn't want to look like, oh, I'm doing a shitty job on Destiny New York, but I write
Right.
really well. And
Well,
not
I
saying that Travis
right.
does anything
Right.
bad, but like that's where I question the
Right.
standard, and I'm very
Well,
curious.
I'm when I say standard, I mean that what I'm looking at it from the consumer's point of view, or because it's like, okay, what am I getting for this $20? And because on our side, the reason why we charge so much money is because we're not printing thousands and thousands of copies. That allows us to lower the price point on these books. We're doing POD, which is a lot very convenient for us, but at the same time, the trade-off is that it's the margins are a lot lower, so it's like we have to charge more for what you can probably get for a couple of dollars less at a comic book shop. However, it's like, what I'm saying is that, for that $20, there's a certain, I would think, like a certain expectation as to what you're getting, of course, in the context of who's selling that book, how thick the book is, how many pages is it, what's the reputation of the creators. Because yeah, what I didn't like about the book that took 3 years to deliver is that, yeah, it technically wasn't an expensive book because it was $25 and it was like this hardcover. But I, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't have bought the book. Because in the end, it's like, you know what? There were other people I could have spent that money on. Um, you know, considering that these books are expensive to begin with. So, um, and I think that, and I think that also that's why a lot of people also are kind of like waiting for trades now. At least in my experience, I know that a lot of my fans are now like, instead of buying individual issues for $20, they'd rather wait until I put out a trade paperback, which uh, which monetarily is a better value than an individual comic. But even if I spend $20 on a comic, part of that value is not waiting 3 years for it.
So let's actually even talk about that,
Right.
because one of the things that I'm finding fascinating about, obviously, there's trade
Right.
paperbacks and there's
Hmm.
graphic novels.
Yeah.
I do them differently.
Yeah.
So Cthulhu Invades Neverland, which I
Right.
think
Which is an anthology.
an
Yeah.
anthology, that's
Mhm.
an original work,
Right.
versus a trade paperback that is not an original work, or you
Right.
could have an original trade paperback technically. And so, what is that like? Because there's always the issue when you put out a trade
Right.
of, this is some older stuff
Right.
collected, but if people are waiting for it, saying, look, I'm not really into the floppies, or
Right.
I want more of the content. I want to actually like bite into the burger, for
Right.
lack of a better word.
Right.
I want to just have a little snibble
Right.
of bacon on the burger,
Uh,
and then wait for another little snibble to come.
right.
Because there are new readers that are
Right.
specific
Yeah.
on that, but there's also the issue where if I've already read the 4 issues or the 5
Right.
issues, do I want this new piece of content or this
Right.
old content versus something new? And because I've seen trades do really well, and I've
Right.
seen do disasterless. Like,
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen and experienced both ends of that. Um, I mean, trade paperbacks. I like doing trade paperbacks because, like me personally, I'm not an individual issue collector. I much prefer trade paperbacks. It's more of a space issue than anything. It's a lot easier for me to put a trade paperback on a shelf than it is to put individual issues in a way where I can conveniently get to them. So I like offering both. Um, However, if I had to do it all over again, what I would have done, so with Eagle Raven is a 15 issue limited series. If I were doing this all over again, I probably would have put out the 15 issues first, then do collected trades. But that's not what's happening right now. So I'm just going to continue my pattern. So because like every 4 issues, I put out a trade paperback, which works out for me because it takes me about a year and a half to put out those 4 issues. So it's not like people are waiting a year between individual issues. So the 4 issues come out, and then the trade, like in this case now, the trade, my volume 2 for Eagle Raven is scheduled for next year. Because I have 8 issues already. I already have the volume 1, which I showed here, and so people know that there's a second trade coming up. So what happens though is that does affect the sales of the floppies, of the individual issues, because there's some people who they like collecting the floppies, but there's another part of the audience that just wants the trades because it's more convenient and, again, a better value. It just depends on being aware of how those two audiences split, and I guess like doing your Kickstarters accordingly, and having realistic expectations for that. The irony of it is that for me, so far, trade paperbacks have done better for me than my floppies. But if you talk to JD Calderon, he has the opposite issue. His individual issues actually do better than his trade paperbacks.
So this is actually fascinating. So what I'm actually learning is that the interview itself, this right here, and this
Right.
is, I think, relevant because it's somewhat of a comparison, at least on a theory level. Hopefully I'll be able to articulate it. Is that this does okay, but the micro content does amazing. When I cut up an interview,
Right.
3 minutes here, 60 seconds there, shorts do great.
Oh yeah.
And so it's fascinating because for me, all of it is getting out pieces of the interview, and it all drives traffic back to the interview. And so obviously you need the floppies to get to the trade.
Right.
And the trade is people are reading the story, and it's all under the same IP. It's just packaged differently.
Yeah.
So if you're funding the IP's creation and you're minimalizing your costs to get to a trade, and then the trade is what gets you over the finish line. I mean, I think that's where I think people maybe don't understand comics and understand the business, is that the goal is to get across the finish line.
Right. No, absolutely.
How you do it.
Right.
You don't really care if you're getting across the finish line, and it doesn't have to look pretty how you get across the finish line either.
You never look pretty crossing the finish line. As someone who's done half marathons, and I am currently training to run a marathon, nobody is pretty at that finish line. Trust me on that one. Trust me on that one. I mean, and the thing is though, I would not, if it's one thing that I wouldn't have done, is I wouldn't have gone straight to trade. I think that you really do need those micro doses. I guess if that's what you want to, how you want to look at the floppies, you really do need those individual issues to help build the interest for the trade, as opposed to just coming out with the trade all at once. Um, so that's something that I wouldn't do. And also the benefit of having a trade is that a trade is evergreen. So it's like even on like subsequent campaigns, the trades always sell. So it's like, because everybody knows that if they're just catching up, it's like, okay, the trade is here, so I can always like that's something that has more longevity than actually the actual individual issues.
Did you also feel that a trade at a con table is also sort of saying, hey, look, there's 4 issues here, and then we have
Right,
the second trade?
right,
Because I'll be very honest, somebody has a comic, I'm like, oh yeah, it's my
right.
first issue.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm willing to try it if it's $5.
right, yeah,
But are you really gonna be around here for
right.
life? But if you say, hey, look, I got
Oh,
four
I
issues,
mean, I could tell you stories about that, because like I said, I've been doing this since '92, and we've been doing conventions all that time too. And it's like, yeah, and it's like we have seen many. The road is littered with bodies. We have seen the people who it's like they have their issue 1 on the table, and even then, people are asking, well, how do I know you're going to get to an issue 2? How do I know you're going to make it past your issue 0? Back when issue 0s were all the rage. Um, so that's also kind of a thing too, where it's like you have your individual issues that people do like, because it is a less expensive place to start. I mean, I'm not selling my individual issues sell for $10 on Kickstarter, but not at conventions. At conventions, we sell them for like $7, and then if you buy 2, you can get them, for whatever discount that we're giving. I mean, it's a lot more. The pricing is a lot more flexible at a convention. So the individual issues are good for that, for people who it's like who want to try it out, but they don't want to spend the $35, on a trade just yet. But you know what? Maybe they can spend the $7, on like issue 1 or issue 2 or not. I'd say you buy issue 1, issue 2, you get a discount. So maybe they're willing to do that. So I don't think that it's a good idea to just like say, oh, it has to be one or it has to be the other, because again, the you want to make sure you get like all kind of like all corners of your audience. I mean, I'm going to be at Baltimore Comic Con in September, and I'm actually experimenting with the idea of selling PDF comics. So these are actually my trade paperbacks in PDF form. You buy this little zine. It has a mini poster inside, and then there's also a QR code where you download the PDF. If you're the type that you don't want to buy a book, because I don't know, you don't have the space or whatnot, but like, so instead of spending $35 on a hardback, on a trade paperback, for $10, I'll get I'll get a PDF, I get a little poster, and I can read the book on my phone. So that's something that I'm experimenting with to see, I say, how many corners of my audience can I cover?
Because
So,
the reason why I bring this up, and I think it's
mhm,
fascinating, is that if somebody has, and me and Tom Hutchinson were speaking about
right,
this, where somebody has 4 trade paperbacks of
mhm,
Oz, which he
right,
has,
mhm,
or 4 trade paperbacks of Critter,
yeah,
so he's like, okay, now this
yeah,
person has
you're
a lot of
serious.
work.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It shows that you're serious.
not saying that
Right,
somebody who's brand new isn't
right,
telling the next
exactly.
big story. There's
Yeah,
not going to be a superstar because we all start somewhere. But there's also comfort
yeah,
where I want to know. I mean, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I trust WWE when they put on a
right,
pay-per-view that they're going to produce a good show. I
right,
might not like the end result of the show. I might
mhm,
want to book matches differently, but I know
right.
collectively the show is a good product.
Well, right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think that what a trade paperback, I mean, because that's the thing. I mean, yes, it's a little bit harder when you're starting out and you just have the one issue. But the thing is, though, look, that's what everybody has to do. You have to prove yourself. That's why putting out an issue a year, that's not really proving yourself. I mean, and this is somebody who, this is coming from somebody who did start off putting out an issue a year. I mean, you can't build an audience like that because nobody knows, it's like, okay, it's like, are you going to make it? Are you even going to make it to issue 2? If the trade paperback at least shows you made it this far.
It's like podcasting where,
Mhm.
it is, you can't build an audience in podcasting or streaming
Right.
media if you're doing, an episode a month. It's
Right. Exactly.
hard. And
Mhm.
it depends what you're doing in that month.
Right.
You're running a business 2.5 hour conference call, giving
Right.
really good, business advice. That's a little different.
Right.
But, if you're doing an episode every single week for a
Yeah.
year, you're going to be building an audience. If you're doing
Right.
2 episodes every single week and you
Yeah.
take a week off, that's fine.
Right.
So every 3 months, if you take a week off, that's not going to hurt you. But
Right.
if you're doing 1 episode a month,
Right. And then you don't even know when that episode comes out a month. I mean, there's a comfort in being consistent. I don't know if you've spoken to Tyler Carpenter, but he recommended he recommended a book called The 1 Hour Content Plan, and I have been studying this book. And it's pretty much, and it pretty much says that it's like on how to build your audience.
Me and Tyler have spoken about funnels. I'm a big Russell Brunson fan who does ClickFunnels, and I've recommended the 3 books out of Russell Brunson, where it's the .com secrets, it's traffic web secrets, it's funnel builders, because Kickstarter is, and I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. Listening to Gary Vee, Gary Vee talks about how to get content out of something.
Right. Yeah.
Every interview I do gets 36 to 50 pieces of content.
Right.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And it's not as complicated as people think it is. It takes
it just requires an investment of time. And it's time you have to find if you really want to see any movement in this. I don't want to use the word success because everyone has a different definition as to what success is. But if you want to see movement in what you're doing, you need to invest the time in it. And it's like, and according to the book, I should be putting out a video at least once a week. If I really want to build my YouTube channel, as an example, if I want to build my YouTube channel and help grow my audience there, that I can hopefully transition, to the Kickstarters or my store or whatever. But at least,
I'll be honest with you. I've grown my YouTube channel where, probably in the last 3 months, I've put out about 23 to 24 videos. A lot of content.
Right. Yeah.
Between shorts and other things, and I put out content elsewhere too. A lot of it's similar content, but people are on different platforms.
Right.
But one of the things that I figured out is that, because of that, I've added about 60 subscribers.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's not a big deal to somebody who has 10,000.
Right.
But going from 470 to 533.
Right.
Big jump.
Right. Oh no, absolutely.
And it's
every time I've noticed that when I put out, like I do vlogs with Nita twice a week, and then I do my own live stream about once a week, every Wednesday, every other Wednesday, but it's always on a Wednesday. But it's when I put out a recorded video, that's where I see traction. As Tyler had explained it to me, it's like your live streams are to engage the audience you've already attracted, but you need like the pre-recorded videos in order to attract new people to come to your channel. So even the type of videos that you make, each one has a different
I take a different view on it. So I take a completely different view. I view YouTube as a search engine.
Right.
So my micro content is to really answer and target a specific thing that's
right.
in search. That's the whole point.
Right.
So what I do is very different, where I'm consistent on my timing of release. So I do 12, 3, and 6.
Right.
So I just pick those times because I like those times. To me, 12 on the East Coast is lunchtime. It's 9 in the morning.
Right.
On the West Coast. If you're in London, I'm sorry. No, I
We'll
love
put you on the
London.
replay in London.
But anybody can watch my content at any time they want to watch it. It just drops at that kind of
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Then 3 o'clock is 12 o'clock West. It's 3 o'clock Eastern, because
Right.
those are the two markets. And obviously Central Time is an hour
Right.
before or after that. And then 6 o'clock is dinner time, and people are obviously driving home. It's right for them when they get home from their work, or it's midday West Coast.
Right.
My theory is that I release older interviews because I cut up content and I link that content back to that interview, and it's just a reminder that that's there. The micro content is to be searchable, because obviously people use YouTube saying, cool, what was, I'll use a voice actress, Nurse Joy Megan Holland's head. So they type that in, how did she get Nurse Joy? Or how did, the person get original Nurse Joy? Or they type in Nurse Joy voice acting, and it comes up. And so I target specific searchable content. And so I take a very different approach.
Right. Well, but I think but the thing is, that's obviously it depends on the type of content. Obviously, your content that you make requires you to be more SEO optimized, right? Where the content that I'm trying to make is more, I guess, like lifestyle / entertainment, which is what I'm trying to do. So that requires like a different type of strategy to in terms of what I do with my videos. Also, like I said, because I do everything myself, I make the comics myself, I also have to try to figure out how to schedule all of this in a way that the work doesn't cancel each other out. It's like it kind of defeats the purpose if I'm burning myself on one end to make the other end functional. That hold both candles.
There's a reason why I do it the way I do it, because I'm doing everything myself too. So I completely understand where I do all my content. I produce all my content.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want a producer. I don't want anybody in the kitchen with me. I'm not producing a comic. I work a 9-to-5 job. I'm fortunate that I get to work 3 days from home, which is so helpful, because
absolutely. Yeah.
It gives me flexibility. I'm fortunate enough that all I need is a laptop, to make all of this work. But I completely get it. And then, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take 2-week vacations.
Right.
I won't release content. So I'll release like 6 months of content, and then I'll take 2 weeks and I'll build new content in those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I get ahead, because that's the only way to function.
Yeah. That's the part that I struggle with. Yeah.
If I lose 3 or 4 subscribers because I took 2 weeks off, I'll gain them back in the next 6 months by another 60. So I have no problem giving a little bit up to reset, give a little bit up, reset, because the point is that I want to go up. I don't want to, no problem taking a dip, going up, take a dip, going up.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I haven't read the book that Tyler recommends, but I take a very different approach where I view media as on demand. And I've said this, and at the beginning of COVID, I said what's going to dictate the future of media is big libraries, customization, and on demand.
Right.
So I'm a big Law and Order guy. I don't watch Law and Order on Thursday nights. I watch it on Peacock the next day.
Right.
Because I want to watch it after I get home from work, opening up a beer. And I'll
watch
at
your convenience. Yeah, of course.
And so anytime I could customize anything I want to customize, and there's big libraries, and that's why I think Peacock's great. That's why I think Netflix is great. That's why I think Disney's great. I honestly am a huge fan of all three of those companies because they have huge libraries and they allow me to watch it whenever I want to watch it.
Right. Well, you see, funny, going back to, like having books ready before you do a Kickstarter, that's kind of how I feel about the books that I purchase. That it's like I have a certain enthusiasm and I want to be able to enjoy these books that I'm purchasing in that window of my enthusiasm. And I'm willing to keep that window open for a certain amount of time, to do that. But like I said, it's like I can enjoy, I can keep my enthusiasm going for 6 months if I know what's going on. But like once you hit a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's like you've lost me.
But it depends on the book though, right?
I keep getting asked that, and to tell you the truth, um, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think it
Let me
would
put it a
depend.
different
I
way.
mean, there are people that I know that I am currently waiting for them to put out their trade paperback. Like I'm
Ooh.
skipping certain of their campaigns because I'm waiting for the trade paperback. So technically, this is me waiting, for
So
their books.
I'll give an example of what
Right.
I mean. Destiny New York, Pat Chan. So
Okay.
he's producing a graphic novel.
Okay.
So it's volumes 1 came out, then volume 2 came
Right.
out, then 3, 4, 5. So it
Right.
takes a year.
Right.
So
Sure.
I'm very enthusiastic about
Right.
Destiny New York because I understand
Mhm.
that it takes 9 to 10 months to produce a
Right.
graphic novel. But
Right.
I understand, though, that I'm getting a huge boatload of content.
Right.
And so I don't have a problem where I'm still enthusiastic when he
Right.
launches the campaign
Well, here's the thing. How long does it take for him to put out, like how many issues does he put out in a year?
of Destiny New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's probably 4 or 5. The graphic novels,
Okay.
graphic novel.
So there you go. So I think that's a reasonable that's a reasonable schedule. Like you're at least, if you're at least putting out your book quarterly at least, I can accept that because it's like, you know what? Plenty of books have come out in stores quarterly that I've collected. So
It's also different with his book because the graphic novel is the original, and then it comes out with Black Mask after.
right. Hmm.
So that's the other reason why I'm
Right.
still enthusiastic because I'm
Right.
getting it first.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
the graphic novel is
Uh-huh.
the original and it's the
Right.
first.
Right.
So that doesn't come to stores. It comes to stores in single issues
Right.
later.
Uh-huh.
So anybody who wants it
Right.
originally and
Right.
wants it first and the fastest method
Yeah.
gets the graphic novel, and it's in a
Right.
nicely bound book.
Right. Right. Well,
In
but the thing is, at least from what it sounds like, if he's putting out a book at least quarterly, then you kind of have an idea as to when that book that you want is going to come out. It's like we have a friend, Rob Multari. He's putting out Nightwolf. That's a book
that
that,
guy,
yeah, I'll
can't
wait.
stand
I'll
that
wait
guy.
for.
No, that guy's just
Yeah.
a bad apple.
No, yeah,
He's
it's
just a
like,
bad apple. We got to put him with some silver stakes.
yeah.
No, Rob, I know Rob. Rob's
Yeah, no, Rob is great. So I know that he puts out certain amount of books per year. So it's like I know that, okay, there's a trade coming. And I know that he gets his trades printed overseas. So like I said, I know how that sausage is made, so I know how long that takes. So the wait is not a surprise for me because I know his pattern. So I know that, yeah, it's going to take X amount of time to put out X amount of issues. The trade comes out, and then it's going to take X amount of time for his trade to get made. And then I know I'm going to get that because I'm already familiar with his pattern. So I'm willing to wait for
It's
his book.
also, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but for me, it's also certain people I
Right.
trust, certain people I like.
Yes.
Certain
Yes.
people
That's
trust.
definitely has a lot to do with
Good
it.
people. I mean, I'll be very
Yeah.
honest. JD Rosario, if he
Okay.
took a year to produce Limbo, I really wouldn't care. I'd still be excited to read it because he's just a good, exciting person to
Right.
talk to, and I know him.
Right.
It's also, look, there's people that I don't know who I've met for the
Right.
first time, and you just feel
Right.
an energy. And
Right.
you could take as long as you want with your book, as
Well,
long as you
but
want,
so
right?
it could take Rosario a year to put out Limbo, but the thing is, though, that he has the 4 issues done already.
Oh, it's not even
So I think that
me.
makes it easier to wait for the issues to come out. It's like, well, because they're done, it takes a certain amount of time to put them on Kickstarter. It's not like you can do, I mean, unless you're crazy, you can do, because I think Tom has done it, where he puts out a Kickstarter a month, I think. And I mean, there's some people who do that.
Tom Hutchinson?
Yeah, hasn't he put out a book a
No,
month at one time?
he does like 4 or 5 a
Right.
year.
Okay.
He
Who was
doesn't.
doing it? Someone was doing it. I don't know if it was like Pat Shand, right?
Shand is
Does
doing
a book a month.
a book a month or
Right.
more. Merc Mag does it.
Yeah, they
Merc
definitely
Mag does it every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah. No, it is insane. I mean,
this is how you bankrupt your base. This is how you do it. This is the methodology.
Yeah.
And this is my criticism of
Right.
Travis, Pat, and Merck is I don't think that they have gone through a rough time in
Right.
the economy where money is tightening up. And
Right.
I could be wrong, but it's just my thought process where I don't think that they have collectively gone through that process
Right.
where now your backer is upset and your backer leaves completely.
Right. I mean,
I don't
that is a risk. Yeah, like the idea of you could actually put out too much content at once to actually you can alienate your audience that way. Yeah, I've seen that happen too, which is weird.
if
Because
you're
it's
putting
like
out too much content at
right,
too high of a price.
right. Well,
So I'll give you an
that's true too.
example.
Yeah,
If you put out 24 seasons of Law and Order,
yeah,
but it costs $5 a month, you're
right,
not alienating your audience.
right. Yeah, exactly.
So somebody was to say, I'm gonna put out DC puts out their DC catalog
Uh-huh.
and they're releasing 52 issues digitally and it
Right.
costs a backer $10, and they
Uh-huh.
say we're gonna put out 70 issues instead,
Right.
that's not gonna alienate your audience because the
Right.
price didn't go up. If
Right.
they said it's gonna be $3 and we're raising the price up from
Right.
$150 to $210, you might start alienating your audience.
Right. I mean, because it's like it's a lot to expect from your audience, that it's like, especially like, yeah, especially if you're charging $20 each time, that it's like, okay, you're asking them to shell out $20 each month for
So
your book, when there's all these other books too that they want to purchase as well.
and a company like Merck
Hmm.
and Brian Polito has done this very well,
Yeah.
where they want everything. Now Brian Polito does it quarterly,
Right.
so
Right.
that's
The
that.
amount of books that he puts out. Sure. Yeah.
But Merck and certain companies have done this where they've trained their customer where they want 4 or 5 of those books.
Right.
It's $100 every single
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. You see, that's kind of like, yeah, it's like, they're not just buying a $20 book. They're probably spending more like 150 each time Mark
I
puts out a
love
book.
I love Merck Mac. I love their
Right.
books. I won't back their Kickstarter because it is a money death trap for me.
Right.
I'm very honest about it.
Right.
It
Yeah.
will bankrupt me and it will cause
Yeah.
bigger problems to
Right.
business and a bunch of other things because I
Mhm.
want a lot of their covers. And I
Right. Yeah.
purposely avoid
Yeah.
their Kickstarters. I like
Right.
their product. I can't back their Kickstarters
Right.
because
Yeah.
they have successfully alienated a customer who loves
Mhm.
their product
Yeah.
because it will bankrupt me. Where
Right. So that's so yeah. So that's the other end of waiting 2 years for a book. Is it's like, are you willing to support a company that puts out a campaign every month? And obviously your answer is no. I can't do that either.
I mean, it sounds like a weird thing, but I
Right.
can't be the only one because
Absolutely not.
I
Yeah.
know how the story ends,
Hmm.
and I think it's coming. I think this is
Right.
genuinely coming. This
Right.
story is ending this way, and I think it's a
Right.
real issue. And
Yeah.
and I think that there gets a breaking point where
Hmm.
too much content. What is the
Right.
Spice Girl song? Is too much of nothing is bad enough, but too much of something it can be just as bad.
Right.
Right, right.
I mean, there has been some talk about how, let's
Spice
see. So,
Girls or this?
well, Kickstarter in general, where, let's see, they say, so Kickstarter at San Diego had released some of their numbers, and just for the first 6 months of 2023, 1,666 books have been released in comics Kickstarter alone for just the first 6 months of 2023. 1,600 books, 1,600 comics. I mean, that's a lot of comics to dig through. I mean, imagine being in a store with 1,600 individual issues on the shelf that you had to choose from.
That's about diamond
You
lunars
know,
and penguins.
right? It's like,
That's
it's like, and the thing is, though, comics, is kind of a small circle, I guess, and but still though, it's like, so the question that I keep hearing is that, oh, there's too many books, and it's like, that's why, like, campaigns are slowing down. Campaigns that would fund, so quickly, now they're taking, days to fund when they could have done it in the first. I mean, there's a lot of these theories bouncing
Let's
around.
actually talk about that, because
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you my theory. There's a lot of content
Mhm.
on Kickstarter. There's a lot of content
Yeah.
off Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be very
Yeah.
honest with you. I mean, I buy a lot of Power Hour. Obviously, I'm buying it for a different reason, because I
Mhm.
sell it and I make money
Right.
doing it. But guess what? If Comics Elite has Power Hour on their comic shop, and Joe Schmo or whatever has a book, I have to
Right.
make a choice. I have to make
Right.
a choice.
Yeah.
So I don't think Kickstarter is competing anymore, or crowdfunding is just competing with crowdfunding. You're competing with
Right.
store variants. You're competing with companies doing it themselves, or you're
Right.
competing, stores releasing their own stuff that they could release.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's like, it's signal to noise. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like it's kind of like, how does a new person putting out, or anybody, if you're not Polito, if you're not Merck, if you're not, you don't have a Shikari cover on your campaign, how do you stand out in this
I have
environment?
a theory on that too. I mean,
Right.
I have my only theory is that you have to go out and hire a good cover artist. You have
Mhm.
to spend the money, and you
Right.
have to do a lot of promotion, and
Right.
you have to do a lot of free promotion. You have to go on shows. You got to
Right.
post a lot of places. You got to do creative shorts. You got
Right.
to call up stores. You got to
Yeah.
do whatever you got to do.
Oh
Or
no, and that's it, that's look, that's it. You'd be surprised at how many people still think to this day they can just dump a book on Kickstarter and then think that they don't have to do anything.
I mean, you know my story about how I was running a campaign to fund this show a little
Uh-huh.
while ago. The only reason why I got funded is every day I posted in group after
Right.
group after
Yeah, you
group
have
after
to.
group after
Yeah.
group after
Mhm.
group, and boy, did people not like me. People attacked me. It was not a pleasant experience, but I did fund. I did
Right.
fund. Now my goal was $750. I
Okay.
funded $820.
Uh-huh.
But my goal is that I hustled like crazy.
Right. And that's the thing, that, like I said, there are people who think that they don't need to do that, and it's like, look, every time we do a vlog, that's one thing that we talk about, is that, no, you can't just show up. You can't just do a comic. This isn't like, back in the day where you could go to a convention and sell out of your stock, because like everybody was like really curious about new books, and it's like, oh, they're at the con, it's like, oh, what's this? There's more of a curiosity at conventions for new material. It's not like that online. It's like, if people don't know who you are, if you don't have a mailing list, if no one's ever heard of you, you don't have a social media presence, you're in for a really, really rough time.
It's interesting because I mean, in my eBay store I have a very different position on that as well,
Uh-huh.
where I don't have an email list. I
Right.
don't do any marketing for eBay beyond this, where it's just in the comments down below.
Right.
But I have covers
Mhm.
like
Right.
this, where I'm going to show the cover.
Oh yeah.
Covers like
Oh
this.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So my merch sells
Yeah.
itself.
Right.
But that's also getting complicated too.
Right.
But that my whole thing is that my merch sells itself, and I
Right.
specifically pick merch
Right.
that
Well,
sells
but the
itself.
thing is, though, that's based on the idea that that is a very strong market on Kickstarter. So you already have people looking for that stuff. I mean, it's like, look, if you have a Shikari cover on
That
your
is a Shikari
campaign,
cover.
right? No,
That-
definitely. It's like, if you have that Shikari cover on your campaign, I mean, that cover alone is going to account for 25% at least
that cover,
of the campaign.
just so everybody knows, that cover is
Yeah.
sold out. That cover
Right.
sold out within 5 minutes
Right. Yeah.
on Comics Elite. On that cover, I sold one on day one for $90. I listed it, and I was appalled because I was expecting to be counted at 70, and I would have taken 70.
Right.
It was a $20 cover.
Oh no. People throw money at Shikari.
it was I would have taken
there is nobody honest. It's like, because there was a time, there was a period where JD was doing some research on, like, who to get, like, for covers and whatnot. I mean, he's always looking for new artists, and Shikari ended up fascinating him because yeah, like any campaign that had Shikari on it, with very, very few exceptions. I mean, we're talking about like the Shikari cover is adding like at least it's at least
there's a few
25%
others.
of the campaign is because of that Shikari cover.
If you have J. Scott Campbell doing something, that adds value. If you have Symphony Naki, that adds value.
I mean, but the thing is, I don't see like J. Scott Campbell on Kickstarters as much as I do Shikari.
That is true.
I am talking about Kickstarter, the environment of Kickstarter.
Right now, I think the top 10, I would say Keith Garvey is big on Kickstarter. I would say Greg Bo Watson.
Right, yeah, Greg Bo, yeah.
Mercer Pope is big. Mike DeBaffo on a bunch of things.
But honestly though, nobody brings them in like Shikari.
But Shikari isn't much on Kickstarter because Shikari is really exclusive to Merc and Comics Elite.
Yeah, but when you see a campaign with Shikari on it, the money, I mean, the money that his cover is bringing, because that's kind of like again the ecosystem of Kickstarter. So if you're talking about somebody who's just putting out like a fantasy comic like I am, I mean, there is absolutely no way my campaign can compete with that, because it's like I'm not catering to that part of the environment,
It's the idea that I mean, we'll use Ryan Cummings' Ren and the Bastard Queen.
Yeah,
that book is a fantasy book. I mean, nothing against Ryan. Book is good, but it's not a great book. It's not off the chart book.
Right. I mean,
it's average. It's a solid book, but he has a lot of covers.
Right.
A lot of good artists.
Because he knows the environment that he's selling in.
So when you have Greg Bo Watson and you have other people and you have like Bill Mouse doing covers and Bill McCray, all of a sudden you're hitting that, and that's what drives traffic.
Right.
So if you're a brand new person, you should spend the money to go find those artists who maybe isn't a Shikari,
right?
Greg Bo Watson, it's going to drive traffic. Steph Wilson.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. I mean, it's. And that's the thing too. It's like you have to know the environment that you're in and that you're selling in. And once you know that environment, you have to kind of like do a little soul searching as to like, okay, this is what are your expectations on this platform, on Kickstarter? What are your expectations? And you have to adjust accordingly.
You have to make, I guess, a business decision too, saying what type of company do I want to be.
Right, exactly.
For full disclosure, I made a big decision. I had a pretty extensive surgery. I come out of surgery, and a day after, while recovering from surgery, my leg in a cast, maybe a little high on some oxycodone. I don't know.
Always.
but I made a decision to revitalize my business. Right. I am in the bad girl art space.
Right.
I am in sexy covers.
Right.
Nude. Not a fan of nude covers. They don't really do it for me.
Right.
But definitely that bad girl exclusive limited run stuff.
Right.
And I've made a decision that that's the business I want to be in.
Right.
And the other side of my business is sports cards, which is the exact opposite, but they both work so well together. It's they shouldn't, but they do. But the idea is that I made a decision saying I would like to make money. Right. And I think that's something that if you're in comics, you have to say, cool, do I want to have a successful comic and my story is good, but do I want to get to an issue 2 funded, issue 3?
Right.
Get there.
Well, that's it. That's the funny thing. We kind of had this conversation on the vlogs yesterday about.
I didn't watch it, so I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. Where we were talking about like really understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and and it's like are you doing comics because you have a story to tell, or are you building an IP because you think that someone's going to offer you $10 million for it
Are
down
you
the road?
trying to create a movie pitch search?
Right, exactly.
I mean,
I mean, it's and the thing is though, is like again, it's like you have to really do some soul searching and really understand what it is that you're doing in this space. And once you make that decision, you have to accept the consequences of that realization. Because it's like if you're a creator that it's like, no, I'm not going to do those types of covers, I'm not into that type of artwork, I just want to tell my story and whatnot, absolutely go do that. But because of this environment, this ecosystem, you have to understand how your book is going to fare. You have to have a realistic expectation as to how your book is going to fare. You can't say, I'm an artiste, and it's like, I'm going to follow my muse, and then get mad at somebody for having a Shikari cover.
I mean, I'll be very honest. I'll be
you
very honest.
know?
I've accepted the
Right,
consequences of my eBay business. My
right.
mom hates most of the covers that I bring in.
Well, right. It's not
Let
for
me,
everybody.
let me
Yeah.
explain. Let me explain. She loves it when I sell them and I make
Right.
money. So,
Yes.
so, 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 so
Right, exactly. So at least there's that benefit there.
she
Yeah.
understands.
Right.
The point I'm making is that
Right.
obviously I'm joking around in that statement, but she's not a fan of the covers that I bring
Right.
in. But
Right.
she also understands that they make money,
Right.
and so she doesn't have a problem when I'm buying something
Right.
that is in that vein that makes money,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
invest the money, and I'm more
Right.
profitable than not.
Right.
And so there you go. But I fully
Yeah.
accepted that
Yeah.
probably, when I meet my wife, she's probably not going to be a fan of either, but she'll like the money. So
Right.
there you go.
But that's the purpose of why you're doing that. You've accepted that as, hey, this is like it, because you know what? Because in the end, you've decided that it's like, look, this is a product that I'm selling. I don't have to personally like the product, but the product makes me money. I mean, there's kind of a risque story similar to that I always bring up in this to kind of explain this. I'll try to keep it as clean as possible.
You can
So,
make it as dirty as you
so
want. I've had
there's
I've had
so there was an
wrestlers on this
interview.
show.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I've had the first like VTuber Canva
Right.
on
Right.
this, and
Okay.
it's our first interview, and we had a
Right.
very intellectual business
Uh,
discussion. So everything is fair game.
right. So there was an interview that I read with this person, this gentleman, who was at the top of his business. Like he became a millionaire on this, and what his business was that he sold hog semen to hog farmers. So that's what he became a millionaire on. And in the interview he had said that it's like, look, I didn't grow up saying that I wanted to be a hog semen salesman. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. But he goes, it was the thing that I found out I was really good at. So, and he became a millionaire on that. So, okay, so I guess it's kind of like the thing with, okay, you have people who look at your collection of bad girl covers and it's like, what the F? And it's like, well, they make money. So this is what I'm making my money on. I didn't know I was going to be good at this, but this is what I'm good at.
I like it. I like a lot of these
Right.
covers, and they sell, and the second
Right.
they don't sell,
Right.
or they sell
Uh-huh.
less and less and less,
Right.
and I mean, if society didn't want me to sell it,
Right.
the
Yeah.
market wouldn't be there.
Right.
And so until that market
Right.
shifts, and it will
Uh-huh.
eventually shift,
Right.
but
Oh
when it
yeah,
does,
it always does. It always does. I mean, it's like I said, I've been watching this whole thing since '92, and it's like, yeah, things come into to fashion, they come out of fashion, they come back into fashion, bubbles burst. We've seen it all. We've seen it all, and it's just that's just how
I
it
lived
functions.
through 2020 as an
Right.
investor, and I watched my portfolio go down 48%. And
Right.
I watched it come back a lot more
Right.
than 48%.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah.
so, so so I've been through it all, and I
Mhm.
know exactly that this
Right.
bear girl bubble will burst. Will it
Right.
burst today, tomorrow, or the next day? I don't
Mhm.
really know. But
Right.
when it bursts, some of the people in the bubble will be deflated,
Mhm.
and then others and other covers are going to excel, and it's going to be
Right.
good product. And
Right.
the question is that what's going to be good and what's going to be
Yeah.
bad. I mean,
Exactly.
I could
Exactly.
tell you, I'll be honest, J. Scott Campbell, it has been a bubble that's bursted. Certain J. Scott Campbell in the last 5 years doesn't carry the same value as early J. Scott Campbell carries.
Mhm.
Early J. Scott Campbell, 601, Spider-Man 601, in a 9.6 or 9.8 graded book is a very pricey book. It's a very desirable book raw
Right. Mhm.
because it is good J. Scott Campbell. It maintains its value. J. Scott Campbell released a cover 3 weeks ago. It's not going to maintain
Right.
its value.
Mm.
It's just unfortunate. It's just
Right.
unfortunate
I
where
mean, is that because like his covers saturated the market, or
it's because when the 601 came out, it was like a B variant, I think. It was a cool issue. It was when he
Mhm.
was at the height of doing Mary Jane.
Right?
And
Oh, that's the
it's
one with the sofa.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Spider-Man's either going out
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. 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 That's okay.
Great. And then he did a
Right.
matching one
Right.
that's beautiful also that is with Black Cat, with
Mhm.
like La Cat Noir, and he's coming into her window.
Right.
The two match beautifully.
Right.
That book that matched it is a very desirable book too, even though it's more modern because it matches it. It's paying tribute. The
Mhm.
reason why a lot of his covers aren't doing well right now is that he's producing 20 covers every single month.
So he's sat to the market. He's producing more artwork than people actually want.
So when he started doing the variants, so his Spider-Man 700 Superior Spider-Man Midtown book, which is a beautiful book connecting covers, that book was well sought after because it's a low print run and he was
Mhm.
beginning to get well known and it wasn't saturated.
Right.
And now the market is completely saturated and it's
Right.
just like, when you're producing 20, 30, 40 covers, I mean, I like Steph and look, people want to, go after Steph Wilson, but those covers, he's a very saturated artist.
Mm.
It's very complicated
Right.
versus somebody like Shikari.
Right.
Shikari is not saturated.
Which is kind of funny to say because I can't click on a page on Kickstarter without coming across a campaign that has a Shikari cover on it. So
But
it's
not anymore for the
really
most part.
uh-huh.
So, so,
Ever
so
since you went exclusive.
since he went exclusive or he went like $4,000 a cover,
Mm-hmm.
if you offered Shikari $4,000, I think Shikari would do a cover for $4,000. I don't speak for Shikari. I'm presuming.
Right. Because the last time I checked, he said 5. So yeah, maybe you could negotiate down to
I'm
4.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's room to wiggle because if
Uh-huh.
you offered Shikari
Right.
4,500, he said, I mean, dude, we're
Right.
talking $500. I'm not
Uh-huh.
moving over. I mean, $4,500 for a cover is a lot of
Right.
money. It's a
Yeah.
lot of money.
It is. It is. It really is.
It might be worth it. I'm not.
Well,
but
I mean, again, it's like when JD was doing, looking at these campaigns, like, yeah, you're spending $5,000 on a Shikari, but his cover is it could bring in 30,000 on a campaign.
it depending on how you do it,
Yeah.
it could
Mhm.
bring even more. And the
Yeah,
result,
exactly.
if you do a
Yeah.
black and white, a foil, a metal,
Yeah.
and also if you recycle the cover to
Oh,
some,
yeah. Yeah.
or if you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm not even going to put it on Kickstarter. I'm going to put it on eBay straight up.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
going to pull
On
200 copies.
Whatnot. I know that I've seen some on Whatnot.
I'll be very honest. I mean, I might do a Shikari cover if I
Right.
got an exclusive
Mhm.
with a company. I
Oh,
might
yeah.
say, "Look, I want Shikari and
Sure.
then $100 a pop.
Yeah.
$100, I control the whole market on these
Right.
100 copies. That's 10
Yeah.
G's.
Yeah.
Easy, all
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah. I
Um,
believe it.
but that's not neither here nor there. I
Right,
mean,
right. Yeah, it's like it's just because I have to admit you're probably like the first person that I've heard actually admit that the variant cover scene is in a bubble. So I do appreciate because I think that there's a lot of denial with like it's like look, as long as it continues
because
to work for people, it's like if they're willing to cater to that market, go right ahead. It's like in the end I have
I'll be
nothing
very
against
honest.
it. Yeah.
I have a vested interest in the stock market. I have a vested
Mhm.
interest in the United States
Right.
doing well in
Mhm.
society. I have a vested interest in actually us hitting a recession, to be quite
Right.
honest.
Mhm.
I will make more money in a recession. The last time we had a recession, I made more money
Right.
as an investor because I had a lot of money on the sidelines and I have
Mhm.
access to a lot of money on the sidelines. So I have a personal interest in the short term if we're in a
Right.
recession for 18 months and
Right.
everything is deflated. And when my stocks went down 48%, I made a lot more money than people
Right.
realize. I
Uh,
bought stocks that right now are valued 4 times what I paid for them because they were artificially deflated in COVID.
right. Uh,
So I have a vested interest in certain things. And I think what happens with variance is that I think people don't understand they have a vested interest in not being in a bubble because it's
right.
market.
That's what I keep seeing. Yeah, they don't want to kind of like even
And
think about it.
they don't
Right.
want to have these conversations with me.
Yeah.
They don't like my thought process.
Right.
And there's a reason why I buy a book and I sell it. And I'll
Mhm.
buy one for myself. And if it's my own personal collection, I'm not interested in selling
Right.
it. But
Right.
I bought a book today and I don't have the book. And I already have a buyer lined up for it
Right.
because I want in and out and I want
Right.
my docket. I made a
Interesting.
video talking about selling $1,600 worth of cards
Right.
days ago. I sold 18 of Shohei Ohtani cards, and I don't really care what it specs. I probably gave up on the speculation side of that at least $400 to $600.
Right.
Easy, conservatively.
Right.
But I sold 18 of them without ever touching the cards,
Right.
and they were shipped out. And
Right.
I have two for myself, and I made $210 on the whole deal in profit,
Mhm.
pure profit, and
Right.
I paid for both cards, and it was great. But if they sell each of themselves for 100,
Right.
I don't really care because I'm in and out of that trade.
Right. So when it comes to like the covers, you kind of see like I said, it's like I said, you're the first person to
I have two
say
paths. I have
right.
two paths. Personal, it's personal.
Right.
My
Right.
collection.
Right. So that you keep a cover because you like it. But as a whole, you kind of feel like
If
these
it's
covers have to be in and out as quickly as
if
possible.
it's a business, it's in
Right.
and out. It's in and out
Mhm.
unless I think it's going to be worth more. So if it's a variant and a key issue,
Right.
so I'm trying to think of a superhero that
Right.
has a
A
um
variant that's a key issue.
yeah, I'm trying to think of something.
Now here's the thing. Do you now with independent, like with the Kickstarter scene and independent comics, because I understand this whole key issue thing when it comes to like mainstream comics, like the things from Marvel, DC, Image, and like the whole thing with the first issue, like the first appearance of Deadpool, useless knowledge. It's like
DC
I always
Presents
found
number
it funny.
26 is my favorite book. DC Presents
Because
number
like
26.
because what I find funny is the fact that like if you go to a convention, you see Rob Liefeld at a convention, I know that he'll charge nominally for a signature or it's free until you
Who?
bring him that issue, Rob Liefeld.
Oh yeah,
For
yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah, yeah,
Deadpool,
yeah.
for the
If
first
you
appearance of Deadpool, but if you bring that issue to him, I think that the signature starts at $50 because
yeah.
he knows you're going to flip it. But
So
if it's anything else, I think the signature is either free or a couple of dollars. So I understand like key issues in that aspect, but like for something like independent comics on Kickstarter, is there such a thing as key issues?
there is.
Like
I,
what?
I could throw you one.
Okay,
It depends how you want to look at it. So I just had
right.
Steve Stern and Lamar Supreme on.
Oh,
I don't know if you know who either one of them are.
right. No,
Lamar Supreme is from your neighborhood, Long
right.
Island, Queens.
Right.
Um,
There's a lot of podcasts. Like you know what it is? I might have
so
heard the name before. I just don't.
Lamar
Right.
Supreme has done work for Wu Tang. He's done work
Okay.
for
All right.
like a bunch of basketball players.
Uh-huh.
He's done work in graphic arts. He's done work for Tops. Really cool artists. Been around forever. Steve Stern
Uh-huh.
did Zen, Intergalactic Ninja Zen.
Oh, right.
I just saw the book on Kickstarter. I'm like, why not?
Right.
Why
Okay.
not? I should just ask. And then I was going to surprise Steve, and I'm like, I shot Lamar the day of, or I was
Right.
in Starbucks. It was the weekend, and I said, let me just shoot Lamar a message. What do I have to lose? He's probably not going to answer his message. Like, hey, man.
Right. The worst he says is, yeah, he doesn't answer his message.
He came on and he's like, yo, I'll shoot Lamar a message, see if he wants to come on. And then I said, I already beat you to it. It was a very funny conversation. But the point is that book that Lamar worked on is a key issue.
Okay.
On Indie Comics.
On Zen. On Zen Intergalactic Ninja.
Because it's his first published comic work, and it's an impossible issue to find.
Right.
You probably trade $600-700.
Right.
Easy. And look, if you can find it.
Right.
But there's people who have books, and it's tricky with indie because what's going to get optioned, what's not going to get optioned, and it's not what's going to get optioned, right? I don't care if it's optioned. Option just means somebody wants the ability to do it.
Right.
We'll check a 5, 10, 20,000 to do something. I'll throw you an example. I believe Nocturna, No Country by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule's option. Will we ever see that?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
So is it a key issue if you have the first copy of that book?
Right. Because nothing's come of it. Yeah.
They just want it because they want to block another studio from getting it.
Right.
And they'll pay 20, 30, 40,000 because there's tax benefits to blocking, and now they have the option for it.
Right. So, I think Brian, years ago, Brian Michael Bendis did a whole series. He did a trade paperback called, I think it was like Fame. I think it's called Fame and Fortune, where he actually talks about his whole thing with dealing with Hollywood and trying to get one of his books, optioned by Hollywood, and the thing was just a nightmare. But yeah, being optioned really isn't that big of a deal.
It's not a big deal. Everybody makes it a big deal in comics, and I'm like, great, you got a paycheck of $5,000,
right?
Great. I legitly, I don't have a paycheck of $5,000 off of my work as residuals, and then they can renew the option maybe for 7 years next time. That's nice. That's just money. That's just money. That's all that is.
Yeah.
If you said to me, I have a movie coming out,
then
we're talking.
Right. So so it's kind of like a key issue depends on what's going on outside of that. So it's not necessarily an individual issue itself that's a key issue, but it depends on what's going on. I
have an Ultimate Fallout
outside of it.
I have 2 Ultimate Fallout 4s.
Right.
First appearance of Miles Morales.
Right.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with him. Right.
Right. Yeah.
A bunch of people know him as their Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It actually has a large print run. I got mine for free on Free Comic Book Day at Midtown Comics. They were giving them away for free first print runs.
Right.
Because they didn't in the poly bag.
Right.
Crazy. It's like, at the height of that book, it was like a $1,200 book.
Wow.
So Into the Spider-Verse comes out, book shoots up like crazy. The second Into the Spider-Verse comes out, shoots up like crazy. And now it's falling down, but Marvel's doing a live action with it. It's coming. And when that live action is going to be $1,000 easy.
Right.
So that's a key issue because it depends on what's going on.
Right. Okay. Now I understand.
With indie, like DC Presents number 26 is a good example too. First appearance of Raven, Cyborg.
Right.
I don't know if it's Starfire. It might be Starfire. So you have a bunch of Teen Titans in that book, and that's a rare book because it's clearly the birth of characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that book. It's a personal book because I love the Teen Titans. But my whole thing is that with indie, I don't know what's going to get made. Certain things will get made, right? Into it, but I don't buy an indie book as a key issue.
I see. Okay.
It's so speculative. So if you're an investor, you should buy 100 indie books every single year. That was your bird just chirping, right?
Yeah, that was him. That was him. Yeah.
It's kind of like my alarm.
That's the more obnoxious the noise, the more he likes it. So yeah, he likes.
Oh my god, that sounds like my alarm going off. I'm like, is that fire? Oh my gosh. Scared me because that's how my alarm sounds.
Yeah, that's why I kind of have to give that warning at the beginning.
Oh no! The other noises did not sound like my alarm. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
doesn't sound like my alarm.
Right. Yeah.
That
Uh,
sounded like my alarm, like my door was opening up and
right.
he was trying to break into my house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Different discussion
Yeah.
completely. Um, luckily, I have a weapon to defend myself.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Absolutely.
I figured the joke was appropriate, but like with indie, as I was
Mhm.
stating, it's just so speculative
Right.
that you should just back 100 projects a year if you want to play in that field of
Wow.
floppies and
Okay.
just guess, because statistically you will be right on maybe one or two.
Wow.
If
Okay.
if you're lucky, if you back 1,000 projects over 10 years, if you have 10 projects in the next 40 years that get
Right.
somewhat optioned or the basis for something,
Right.
I would tend to think that would be impressive. Not
Right.
optioned, but made into something.
Right. I mean, and again, going back to the stat that just 6 months into 2023 alone, almost 1,700 comics have come out. So it's like if you were playing that speculative game, if you could only choose 100 comics out of that 1,700, I mean, wow, that's yeah, that's
Out of those, if you were to pick 100,
you're literally speculating.
at least 10 of them will be optioned
Right.
in the next 10 years. At least 10. I would say, me being generous.
Right.
Out of those 10, there's a good chance none of them will be made into anything. Um,
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the biggest thing that's coming in
Right.
30 days on Netflix is One Piece.
Right.
And how long did that take?
Right.
25 years?
Right. Exactly. I think like I know it wasn't a comic, but Squid Game, the creator said it took him 18 years for him to get that finally made. So it's like, yeah, so it's not even like, so yeah, being optioned doesn't mean anything. And then it's like, we know that the Mouse Guard movie got completely canned, once the Fox, I think like once the Fox merger happened. So just because something is in production doesn't mean it'll make it.
I mean, Rat Queens
Right.
was supposed to have something that got completely shot
Yeah.
up. Everything from Aftershock is done.
Right.
I mean, look at
Mhm.
Lock and Key. It took forever. They shot that
Right.
pilot and then they said this is garbage.
Right.
So,
I mean, yeah, but I mean, but that's kind of, yeah, but that's kind of because like you said, so what you said was that like at least 100 will get optioned out of that 1,700, and then like maybe only
no. If you pick 100
100. Oh, if you pick
out of the
100.
17, you'll be lucky if you get 10 that get optioned.
Ouch. Okay, so the number, yeah, because I find that fascinating because it's like, again, it's like dovetailing to a conversation that we were having yesterday. It's like a lot, like 99% of the people who come into comics, they all think they're the next Stranger Things and Walking Dead, and they think that they're the next big thing, and it's like statistically, you're not.
I'm curious about something that I was thinking about, and this is a statement where comics to me are in three places.
Right.
Readers, so people who just want stories and just want to read stories. People who are collectors, which is the variants, and they want cool covers for themselves to sell, whatever they want.
Right.
Or the third one is to be a pitch for a movie, TV show, or game, a product. And that
sounds accurate. That sounds pretty accurate, because there always seems to be a conflict between the three. I mean, I consider myself in the reader category, that I'm creating. I consider my comic a self-indulgent hobby, and the fact that I have the readers that I do is just icing on the cake.
In the fact that it doesn't bankrupt you, where
no, not at all. Yeah.
It might cost you 5% of your income,
right?
5% of entertainment.
Yeah,
and I'm presuming it might cost you nothing. You might even make 5%.
Because I do, yeah. Because I do. The only thing at this moment, the only thing that it costs me is time, because that's what that's really what I put into it. It only costs me money if I have to like pay for a flatter, or I have to like probably pay for like ancillary things like printing like some rewards, printing stretch goal rewards or something.
This show is a hobby for me in a lot of ways, but it's also business research.
Right.
but
Right.
collectively it probably costs me maybe 150 a year.
Right. Yeah. It's like because of, what it is, it's like the cost is minimal for me. But I always see the conflict between people, between what I do my comic for, and then people saying, well, if you're not going to do variant covers and make the money on Kickstarter, then why bother? And it's like, because that's not the reason why I'm doing this. And then the third category is like, yeah, that we see a lot of. We see the people who just treat comics, especially on Kickstarter, as just, well, these were my failed pitches, and I'm hoping by doing it as a comic, I could like continue to pitch them to studios.
I'll be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So yeah, that those three categories to me seem pretty accurate.
honestly, if I wanted to pitch a movie or I wanted to sell a movie, I would do it as a comic. I would do it as a
Well,
comic.
yeah, that's
Without a
yeah,
doubt. I have a theory in my head. It's 4 issues, but I'm gonna make money in every single facet.
right,
Again, going back to the
right,
fact that I'm gonna go buy my variant and have it
right,
on the eBay store.
right,
I have a
right.
distribution method, which makes me
Yeah.
different than everybody else in this space
Well,
at the moment.
also just the fact that you're admitting to it, I think makes you different as well. Because the what I usually see in number two, category two, and category three, is that it's very rare that they admit that that's what they're doing.
Oh, no. I am a collector.
Right.
I am a seller.
Uh huh.
And the little known fact for those who don't know, I read the IRS code every year.
Ooh, for funsies.
But understanding taxes makes me money.
Hmm.
So this is when I run an eBay business, and I've gone from doing 30,000 that I will probably end around 60,000 to 70,000 in top sales this year. So I've gone through massive growth, and then I'm going to do it again next year.
Hmm.
And the year after that, I'm going to probably count my business around 120 in sales in the next 3-4 years for a reason. I'm entering into areas, I'm entering into wholesale. There's a lot of stuff going on. I read the IRS code, and one of the things in the IRS code that people don't realize is that there's something called continuance of a hobby. So if you buy a book raw for $60 and then you
Right.
buy that same book graded for $80 and you sell your book raw for 60 or 70, you don't have a taxable event
Oh.
because you upgraded a book in your personal collection. So in certain circumstances, when I go and buy things, I have certain taxable events and I have certain non-taxable events. So as somebody who buys and sells comics, I obviously have things that I'm looking for. And if I have the ability to buy a book that I'm looking for at a wholesale price, I mean, for my own personal collection, and in the
Right.
process, I can buy 4 other books that I'm going to sell, it's advantageous for me as a collector and as a seller.
Uh
And
huh.
it's a privilege I have.
Right.
And this was all intentional.
Uh huh.
So when
Right.
I say it's about money, but it's
Mhm.
also about building out my collection. I'm
Right.
a baseball card collector. I'm looking for certain cards.
You're upgrading your collection.
I'm upgrading and I'm also building out certain collections. I'm a
Right.
huge Aaron Judge fan. I'm a huge Pete Alonso fan. So when
Mhm.
I'm opening up rare packs that I spend money for, half the stuff in those packs I'm selling, and then the things that I want I'm keeping. And as a result, I have a privilege
Right.
where even if I treat it all as taxable, because I am able to buy and I'm selling, I have access to certain markets that other people don't have to build out their collections. And
Huh.
so I am 2 and 3 because
Right.
they both work together. But like I'll buy 2 of a book,
Right.
and then there's a whole thing where if I sell a book for $100 and both books cost me 50, I'm not taxed at
Right.
$50. Taxed at a lot lower of a rate
Right.
because
Because you're upgrading your collection, your personal collection. You're not really selling a collectible.
half of that expense is
Right.
taxable.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
funny.
what people don't understand is that
Mhm.
that's why you might want to be both.
Right.
But my eBay business is about making money.
Hmm.
It's about making money, and it's also about allowing me to build out and
Right.
develop a collection.
Uh-huh.
And I have no problem admitting it. And I think a lot of people in comics don't understand that. Is this about creativity? Is it
Right.
about pitching a movie, or is it
Right.
about making money? Because
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a sexy, big-breasted cosplayer. In case anybody hasn't realized it, and it kills me. And I'll be very honest about it. It kills me that I don't get attention that way. But
Right.
but I've come to the conclusion where, look, I just want a lot of money. I
Right.
have 26% to 32% profit margin
Uh-huh.
on most things I sell. I
Right.
would rather have the money, and I'd rather invest the money, and I'd rather be able to buy whatever I want to buy.
Right.
And I have a day job, and my day job's good. I like my day job. I mean, mine is my commute, and I would rather have the money. And
Huh.
that's where I'm at, and I have no
Right.
problem
Uh-huh.
admitting it. I got no problem admitting it.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
an unpopular opinion because people say, "Oh, Andrew,
It
you
is.
sell out."
Yeah, it's yeah, no, it really is, because it's like it's kind of um like the people who do the bad girl comics, um like like simultaneously they don't want to admit that they do bad girl comics. Like my peeve at conventions are like artists who do like really really sexy work but then argue with you when you say, oh, that's some really horny shit. And then they argue with you with that. It's like, bro, look at your artwork. And I think that like a lot of these people who are doing, these bad girl comics, some of them actually have a problem admitting to that. Like they want to claim their art. It's like, no. It's like these are not sexy books. I'm an artiste. And it's like, bro, have you seen your covers?
I'll put it this way. So I'm not a big fan of nude covers.
Right. Yeah.
There's two reasons why. They don't really appetize me. I like sexy poses.
Right.
Firefighters. I like sexy
Right.
firefighter girls. My
Right.
favorite cover is Fire Sexy Samantha from Zenoscope. I made him do a commission for me of
Right.
her in Van Helsing.
Uh-huh.
And it was a little weird doing it
Right.
because you were handing somebody money. You don't know if they're going to do it. And there's no
Right.
contract.
Uh-huh.
But I was like, you know what? And my mom was a little nervous. And I said, hey, could you do
Especially
it?
the amount of money some of these commissions go for. That's for
And it was
sure.
like, I think 275.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah, sure.
you don't have a problem. You're going to, he's like, no, not at all. And
Right.
my mom was a little concerned. I was a little hesitant. And I said, you do your thing. And when I was like, oh, dude, this is awesome. And
Right.
I still have the book. I'm not interested in
Right.
selling it. But I'm like, dude, this is awesome, man. Like, thank you. And like, you could tell he was very happy that I was.
Right. Yeah.
But like, it was a nice touch book. And
Right. Yeah.
you were like, oh, man, that's cool. And people from Zenoscope were thrilled. But like, Charles didn't have a problem admitting
Right.
it.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's like people are weird. That's what it just boils down to.
But this is about money for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
go-
and that's the thing. It's like, you're very, very specific. You're very honest. You know why you do what you're doing, and you're very unapologetic for that. And like I said, it's like I appreciate that, because it's like I've even interviewed people who it's like you can kind of tell, but for some reason they don't want to admit to it. Like it kind of like takes away from some artistic integrity that they kind of never had to begin.
This is what I think people. So
Right.
the conclusion is that I am not in the club by any
Right.
stretch of the imagination.
Uh-huh.
But I might have been in a club with 50 Cent at one point. But that's not the point.
Right.
that joke was too easy.
You were partying like it was your birthday.
Yes, good Charlotte was playing that night. Anyway, but enough of the jokes about that. But one of the things that I am in this, and I believe in financial freedom. I have
Yes.
I love Dave Ramsey to a
Yes,
degree.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I disagree with him on certain things. Like he just made a video about FIRE, financially independent, retire early. I think he's dead wrong on that.
Okay.
I think he's somewhat a little bit wrong on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and a little bit of debt. I think people can incur a little bit of debt and live debt free and not have expenditures. I disagree with him on credit cards. But I do believe emergency funds. I believe financial.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. Because he was like the basis of my my financial foundation as well.
He needs some tweaking because his core is correct. He just needs to maybe put on a better side view mirror. Might be the way to put it. But I agree with like 85% of Dave Ramsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
His position on cryptocurrencies, I don't think he's educated enough on that topic to really talk about it and certain things, and even managing debt and growing a business.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he disagrees with that, but and I've used debt to grow businesses, and I've used credit card debt, but I've never.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's very anti-debt risk. at
Yeah.
first, and
Yeah.
sometimes you got to take risks.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely Dave Ramsey. Yeah, it's like his, because to him, like, any debt is bad debt. There is no such thing as good debt. And it's like, well, yeah, it depends on how you leverage it.
Yeah, it depends
Yeah,
also what type of debt. So
yeah,
if you have debt that's not due for 12 months and you're leveraging debt, or if you break up a payment into 4 payments with no interest and you're making those payments, he's not a fan of that, but there's reasons why you would do that. And
right, yeah, hmm,
it's just financial
right,
planning and making money in certain ways, knowing that I have 8 weeks
right,
to pay something and I sold half of it that pays for it all ahead
right,
of time.
yeah,
But instead of paying $300, $400 at
right,
once, I'm paying $77. The
right,
point in every 2 weeks. But my point is that I make no qualms about being economically free,
hmm,
investing in the stock market, and getting
yeah,
rich. And this puts me at odds with people because people don't want to hear this.
right.
They
Well,
don't.
it's what we were talking. I don't. It's what we were talking about where um like people come in and they have this thing where it's like, no, I want my comic to make money. And then it's like, what happens is that when they find out that, like, most people have actually make their money elsewhere, they kind of get disappointed or frustrated with the idea, because it's like, oh, if I'm not making money off of my comic, it means I'm a failure. And it's like, no, that one has nothing to do with the other. um
What people don't understand is that I
yeah,
will sell a comic and
hmm,
I'll buy a Mount Olympus book. I'll buy it
right,
for 20, I'll sell it for 50, $60.
right,
Then I'll make 26% on that.
right,
Sure, I pay for the book,
uh-huh,
pay for eBay's fees, pay my
right,
shipping
hmm,
and taxes, and set aside 25% for taxes,
right,
which is probably maybe a little more, a little less, but
right,
it's a good benchmark to put away.
yeah,
So I'm making 26% after every expenditure has occurred. I buy
right,
a new book, repeat the process. I take that 26% of what I
right,
made on the book, and then I buy a stock with it. That produces
hmm,
me a dividend quarterly,
right,
yearly, or monthly. Or
right,
I will buy a share of something, or I'll buy a bond, or I'll buy a music royalty or
hmm,
share of that. And now all of a sudden, the comic that I sold is now hardened out
right,
of that business. So yes, I made money in comics,
yeah,
but I now have something that's paying me a distribution elsewhere.
right,
And I think
yeah,
that's what people don't understand is
yeah,
that if you get an option on your book, you should not put a new book out. That's a ridiculous idea. I'm not saying don't create comics.
right, yeah,
Take some money out and harden up your assets and build an S corp.
yeah,
This is where I'm actually in the process of building out a new YouTube channel talking about business.
hmm,
And I made a whole video talking about the margins in every single sector, what those net margins look like.
right.
Oddly enough, the margins that are the highest is shipbuilding and trains.
Trains. I
The
mean, I would have thought
trans-
military and pharmaceuticals.
transportation, moving things by train has one of the highest margins, and so does
Huh.
shipbuilding.
That's
So,
funny.
so your margins. So I'll give you an example. In banking, the margins are 100%, but you're only making on a net like 26%.
Right.
So you give up a huge amount to actually do that. So your margins are great. Your gross margins are great. Your net margins aren't.
Right.
So what it actually, I mean, it's actually banking is one of the highest because it's 26%, but it costs you about
Right.
64% of expenditures to get there.
Hmm.
Versus with trains, I think it's like 52%. I think it's 27% is
Right.
your net. So
Right.
it costs you only 27 points to operate a transportation business with trains.
Huh.
And the reason why I made that video, it's an hour long, it's a boring video, it's not released yet. It's to understand what your expenditures are. I
Right.
have an idea of what my gross margins are
Hmm.
and my nets are. I'm making 26 to 32% per book.
Right.
That's expensive in
Uh-huh.
certain ways.
Right.
But that's pure profit. If we were to recalculate that and I was to sell a book and then take everything out minus my
Hmm.
expenses,
Right.
my positions would be much higher. My gross would be much higher. But my net margins are 26 to 32% on average in that
Right.
range. which isn't bad considering that I get my capital back.
Right.
And that's what I think everybody doesn't understand, is that it's a business problem.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that what happens is that people get too wrapped up in the kind of like the fun of doing comics, and they don't, and they kind of like say, oh, that's other things. That's
Oh,
other things.
I'm gonna break everybody's fun bubble. What's really fun? It was really fun when you have $9,000 coming in every single month off of your investments.
Right.
That's really fun.
Yeah, I would think so. Yes.
When you have $250 coming in every month, that's a lot of fun for you
Right.
doing nothing. For you doing nothing,
Right.
it's unbelievable fun. When you have $250 coming in off of your
Right.
investments, for you just sitting there,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, "Here's some money for you
Right.
just holding this stock or this mutual
Mhm.
fund or this share, or you have
Right.
rental property."
Uh-huh.
That's fun.
Right.
I know, because that's where I'm at.
Right.
And it doesn't whine, it doesn't bitch. It's
Right.
not physical. It takes up no room, and it's all on your phone, and it's
Right.
awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So when you talk to comic book people, right? So
Really
obviously, so when you talk to comic book people about this, like, okay, you know what? It's like, okay, so you're just starting. Okay, so let's say a person is coming in, they're starting in on this, they want to make, they want to do a Kickstarter and whatnot, and then it's like the idea though is that they start kind of thinking also in what you're saying. It's like, okay, if I make X amount of money on this Kickstarter, I make you do a Kickstarter, you send everything out, and then it's like you have like, I don't know, let's just say like $500 left over. Like
Right.
that's what you have, right? So it's like, okay, so
This
if
is
what would you like what would like how would you start somebody? How would you start somebody off with that?
I'll break this down in a different way
Right.
to
Okay.
answer the question better.
Right. Okay.
So if you create you want to create an indie comic,
Right.
you need to figure out how much it's going to run you.
Right.
So let's say it's going to run you $6,000. Art,
Right.
2 covers.
Right. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, sure.
That is the startup of a business.
Mm-hmm.
Your cost is $6,000. Now, you probably know Kickstarter better than I do. Kickstarter takes what, like 10%?
I think it's 5. They take 5%, and then Stripe I think can take up to 3 or 4 depending on I guess like how many people are backing your campaign or something.
For lack of a better word, we're going to go with 10% just
Okay.
to make it easier. So your break-even point at that point is $6,600. Then you need to add a tax bracket into there.
Right.
Because but you have expenditures, right?
Right.
Because return of capital is not taxed.
Right.
So if you make $6,800, you're only going to be paying taxes on $200.
Right.
And you may not even pay taxes on that. So the whole point is that what somebody should think about when they go into this, and at any point, if I don't answer your question, just stop me and feel free to ask me a specific position on this. This is how I think. So your next book, you should not go and say, well, I could do 2 books now. You should say, let me do an issue 2 at the same price as $6,000. So what should happen is that your return of capital should get redeployed. Because in my eBay business, and I take this practice, is that I buy a book for $25, I sell it for $75, I redeploy the $25. I take out a distribution out of the remainder after I set everything else aside. So what happens is that if you do, let's say you do $8,000 in your campaign, your next book should cost you $6,000. What everybody makes the mistake is that they make their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th issue more expensive and tear it up. And that's where this becomes problematic. So instead of tearing it up, you should keep it at a base level of $6,000, $6,000, $6,000, $6,000. And then if you have another 50 backers, you could then support. So you have to figure out your break-even points. And this is where I think everybody fails in Kickstarter land, is that they want to do 2 books, 3 books, 4 books. Maybe you want to, keep it till you're at a position. And so let's say that you do $8,000, $8,000, $8,000, $8,000, but your costs were $6,000, and you paid your taxes, and you have an excess of $500. maybe what you should do is you should start paying down your debt on that $6,000 back to you. So you have a zero cost basis business.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're not paying back. So now you only owe $4,000 to yourself. So then you do it again, and then you do $8,000, and now you have in excess of 500 or $1,000. Now you only owe you $3,000. And so before you go do another book, maybe you want to put yourself into a position where you have no debt and you paid yourself back. So now your Kickstarter is at a zero basis cost to yourself. So that essentially
Right.
the 6,000 gets redeployed and you pay yourself back 6,000 before you do
Right.
anything. And if you think that way and you start analyzing, you start making financial decisions and look, I got to pay myself back. And I've actually learned this because I'm a gambler on DraftKings. So what I do is that I gambled a bunch of money on the World Cup, and I took $15 and I won a bunch of money. And every time I won money, I actually paid myself back out of the profits, and I paid myself back the 15, and I've lost some money, but I have $8 cash free that has no impact on my financials, which means that if I cash that, I'm up $8, but I can gamble however I want. And if I lose that $8, I don't lose it. I paid back the capital that I bought myself. And that's what I think. That's what I.
So we're not even talking about outside investments yet. We're just talking about doing Kickstarters to literally pay you a salary, kind of.
No. We're getting it to the point where this costs you nothing to do, where you now have capital and you're just redeploying the capital every single Kickstarter. And what you're doing,
it's kind of like each campaign goes, it's paying for itself, but leaving you more and more extra at the end.
You have startup money, and that's all that's going in. So you have $6,000. Everything's done with that $6,000. You raise $8,000. That $6,000 comes back to you, and you deploy it into the next one. If there's a profit out of that, and out of that $8,000 of $500, you turn that $500 to yourself. And it goes against that 6,000. If you do enough campaigns, all of a sudden you paid yourself back $6,000 of the startup cost, but you still have the $6,000 deployed. So you have $6,000 over here, and then you have $6,000 over here, but you're not touching the second $6,000. What people do in Kickstarter, in my opinion, this is just my thought, is they say, cool, I got another $6,000. Let me launch a second title. Not understanding that $6,000 startup is debt to yourself.
I see.
You're getting rid of the whole debt so that if your campaign fails, 5 in, but you paid yourself back the $6,000, you're out no money. You're out no money. And now you have a debt-free business. Now, that might not work for somebody because somebody could utilize debt. I use debt very efficiently in my business. I have a lot of debt, and it's a revolving door debt. Meaning that when I make a sale, I pay my credit card down and then I redeploy the capital back and forth and back and forth. But I am moving so much merch on a daily basis that I can suffice that debt, but that debt is never out of control. And that debt,
that's the catch, right? The debt's never out of control. That's the catch.
I also am in very much control on how much I'm spending and how much merch I bring in and what goes on. I mean, I'm just made a sale. Actually, just made a bunch of sales and I redeployed it. So what I bought today is actually debt free, and I still have $6 left on what I bought from 2 sales that were handled. And then I just sold an item for $75 that I don't even have, which then goes, and I'm actually going to redeploy the 25 tomorrow, take out a distribution out of that, and then just keep on repeating the cycle. And out of 2 sales that I sold, which was about $500, I pulled out, I think, like $210 in pure profit. But like that's what I would say to somebody who really wants to start, is I would try to get them to the mentality of saying, you're starting up a business. And so you have to figure out how to do this. I mean, I'm going to be making a video of the cycles of business, right? And this is one of the things where startup is you pump a lot of money in, and it could very well be that you might have to go through 5 campaigns before you could even take a distribution out.
But
I'm a strong believer that I think people would be much healthier on Kickstarter if they slowed down and they actually had more of a debt-free approach. And it goes against releasing a book a year, maybe,
Right.
or doing 4
Well,
books a year. But if you don't have any debt on your business,
right.
I mean, how many people have no money, have no 401k, and are living paycheck to paycheck?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a business that works well with that. I have a business that is capital centric, but I also went through a massive expansion.
Right.
I'm now coasting, which means my debt ratio is significantly lower. As of last month, I ended an expansion cycle. Now I'm in a coasting
Right.
cycle. But in that expansion cycle, my debt ratio in a given month, I have a credit card limit of $2,000. I put in certain months like almost $4,000 on my credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Because you pay your credit card, then it went back up.
Right. Right. Yeah. You just keep that. Yeah.
And so that is a very dangerous debt ratio.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't recommend people doing it. I don't.
No, because you have to. Yeah. It's because if you can't pay that, it only works if you're able to pay it off as quickly as it goes in.
Legitly, what was going on is I would be buying a comic and I would be selling it the second it came in within minutes. Right. And then I would be paying it off, and then I would be buying something the next day and do the same thing. And I had a few months like that where it was and like my credit card company is like, fuck. Like, they didn't call me up, and I'm pretty sure like, dude, like, you spent a lot of money on your credit card.
Oh, they probably love that shit. They probably love that. I mean, you must have like an 850 credit report, credit score.
I mean, it would not have worked on a debit card, and so
I
don't know if I answered your question on
what I mean. It wasn't the answer I was kind of expecting, but to tell you the truth, I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, but the thing is, though, is that it's definitely a lot for me to chew on.
It's because it's not comics,
right?
This is finance,
right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like technically, yeah, it's like the trick. Yeah. So the thing is, though, is like it's applying to what I do on Kickstarter, and it's like, okay, like what, so it's like, yeah. So, I mean, literally, this is probably going to be a video I'm going to be going back on. It's like, okay, what did he say to do?
The basic premise for those who are really interested in it is that you're starting up a business. Every business has startup costs.
Yeah.
So if you start up a business, you're going to have expenditures.
Right. Yeah.
We could use my eBay business. Let's say you want to start an eBay business.
Yeah.
You got $100. You could buy 5 books.
Right.
So what? You have to make a choice saying, do I just want to be capped at 5 books and move my 5 books and take a distribution out of it, which is also okay.
Right.
I mean, so on Kickstarter, you could not pay yourself back, and you could say, you know what? Here's what I want to do. I have $6,000. I'm going to produce a comic. It produces 8. I'm going to take a $500 salary distribution out of this, and I'm going to do whatever I want with my $500, and I'm going to redeploy the $6,000. And then we're going to keep doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that.
Right.
And you treat the $6,000 as just renewable energy that just gets moved in and out.
Right. Okay. I think I understand. Okay. It takes me a little bit to catch on, but I think I understand what you mean.
That's one school of thought, right?
So instead of like taking that, so it's like you spend $6,000 to make a comic. You do a Kickstarter that does $8,000. And so it's like, so after your shipping costs and everything, you should still have that $6,000 because you broke, to break even on that.
And you should have some more money.
And the little bit extra after all your costs.
And your extra should be taken out.
Right.
And then the $6,000 should be redeployed.
I see.
Now, okay. where it gets complicated.
Instead of just like taking that $6,000 and that extra, say, okay, this is my money now. It's like,
because what I think people do is they take that $6,000 and the extra and say, cool, I could get another cover.
Right. As opposed to just like kind of literally paying it forward to the next campaign.
And so they take that $6,000 and maybe they use it to fix their car, and then they're like, I have no money, and they don't treat that $6,000 as a this is for the business.
Okay. All right. Now I
So,
understand
so,
it.
so
Okay. All right.
that's part of it, right? So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
you take 6 G's and you say, look, we're forming an LLC, and if I take this money out, I'm committing fraud. Is how everybody should think. Meaning, you cannot take out that 6 grand,
Right.
and you're essentially basically getting a distribution out of the extra. Now,
Right.
I take it a step further, and my step further is saying if you have $500 extra, you can treat the 6 grand as a personal loan to yourself.
Uh-huh.
So that $500 should not go to buying you a new Xbox.
Right. Yeah.
What you do is that you say, cool, I have $500. This business spun off a distribution of $500.
Right.
You pay taxes on whatever it is, and let's say you get $400 out of it.
Right.
That $400 reduces what that business owes to you personally, not legally, not anything
Right.
that, down from 6 grand to 5,600.
Right.
But
Okay.
you didn't take money out of the seed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is how you get to a debt-free level, because let's say you run another campaign and it does the same thing, and you do 8 grand and you get another $400 after you pay taxes. And then you
Right.
pay that $400 down, and now it made a personal payment to you for 52. Now you're down to 5,200, what that it owes to you, and so on and so forth. And if you keep doing those campaigns, all of a sudden that business now has given you, let's say, I don't know how, I mean, 15 campaigns later,
Right.
that campaign has paid back that personal
Right.
loan, but you still have the seed money.
Right.
And
Okay. Okay. I think I get it. I think I get it. Yeah.
it's a wild thought, and it's
Right.
not sexy. It's not, because you're like,
No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
now the other school of thought is that maybe you go and instead of doing that, you grow it and you grow your campaigns so
Right.
that you get more money in,
Hmm.
right? And then you pay yourself back with more money.
Right.
But the problem with that is what people don't understand is that if you buy another cover, that creates more expenses.
Right. So I guess like the trick is keeping your expenses pretty much identical between each campaign.
So
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 that it's the
so
same, so the same seed money is covering the same things, kind of.
yeah, and so it gets tricky, because what do you do? And this is
Right.
where business fundamentals matter. Now, the school of thought that gets complicated is that people say, look, I want to grow this to a $30,000 business, and then I want to take out a
Right.
distribution. So I'm right now involved, and I know this is outside of comics, but it's a really good point. I'm into corporate business bonds.
Hmm.
I am pumping money. So I produce 50 to 60 corporate business bonds a year, a month, I should say, off of what I currently have. So
Hmm.
instead of taking out a distribution, I buy 6 new ones every single
Right.
month, which then produces me anywhere from $1.30 to $2.50 more every single month. And a
Mhm.
lot of them are still in play for a while, and they're not going to expire. They eventually will expire. But my theory is that I'm trying to grow that to a certain level
Mhm.
to take it to a healthy distribution. And that's another school of thought on what you want to do. But this is not, I mean, not to put Tyler down. Tyler talks a lot about marketing.
Right. Yeah.
Tyler does not talk about business. This
Mm.
is not a marketing problem, and this is not a knock on Tyler. I don't think he's going to take it that way. I think me and Tyler are friends. I like Girl with the Mega Fist. Good manga book. I enjoy it. But Tyler does not talk about business this way.
Hmm.
I do.
Right. Right.
Tyler talks about marketing. He probably knows a lot more about marketing than I do,
Right.
without a doubt. I'll
Yeah.
concede that. I don't think Tyler knows a lot about business in this way, or even business school thoughts of this
Mm.
nature. And that's and there's nothing wrong with that. It's neither here
Right.
nor
Yeah.
there. It's
It's
just
just, it just goes to show you. I mean, it's because it's very easy to think that they're the same thing, but they're not. They're just different aspects of the same puzzle, I guess. That we
marketing.
have to understand on a certain level.
What I'm talking about is structure.
Hmm.
In which that I'm talking about structure, how you want to set up your business, how you want to handle your finances
Right.
within your business. That is very different. I don't, the reason why my eBay business works, and I'm very honest about it, and I hate to make this whole thing about me, is that, but I think it's relevant, is that I have business structures
Right.
in my eBay business that make me a lot of money, that allow me to take a
Mhm.
distribution.
Right.
And I do other things because I'm a very good investor and I know where to park my money. And because I have business infrastructure and business structure in my eBay business, I don't, it allows me to do certain things and
Mhm.
allows me to actually run a successful business.
Right.
Um, I don't market my eBay business. The merch sells itself. Other
Right.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
sells itself for
Right.
me. But I'm allowed to basically have a profitable, really lucrative business. And I cracked the formula because of that,
Mhm.
because of my structure. It took me 10 years to really figure out this structure. And that's the thing that I think people also forget is
Right.
that's why I'm creating this new YouTube channel talking a lot about business,
Right.
not
Yeah.
because and I'm not interested in creating a course. I just want to create something that could be a tool that probably would have helped me.
Right. Yeah.
To be quite honest, I think it'll be useful, and I probably will make more money by making it free because I'm probably going to get speaking gigs or people like, hey, can you consult for me?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Which I don't have a problem
Exactly.
consulting for people. I have no problem walking into somebody's Kickstarter and saying,
Right.
I'm not going to solve your Kickstarter problem. I'm going to solve your business problem
Right. Hmm.
where you
Which,
need
yeah.
infrastructure. But
Yeah.
that's how I feel. And
Right.
if you were to hire Tyler for marketing and me for
Right.
business, you would be in a
Right.
bit.
Yeah. That's like, Wonder Twin powers activate right there. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
But hopefully I answered your question because my theory, and I'm sure I'm going to get shellacked for it, is that I want people to understand what they're doing in their business.
Right.
Using
Yeah.
debt is not bad. If you can
Right.
use it and understand it and
Hmm.
service it, it's not bad. There's plenty of things. I mean, I use debt very efficiently and I take a distribution out of my business using debt. Some
Hmm.
people should not use debt.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There will get a point where I will end that debt and that I will have enough cash flow that I mean, I have a lot of cash flow, but the only reason why I'm using debt right now is because it's extremely lucrative and I can service it very efficiently.
Right. Yeah.
But I use credit cards to service debt.
Hmm.
So that's but I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm not going to need to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what I think is so interesting, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people on Kickstarter just do not have that mindset and do not
No,
have
it's
that
true.
understanding.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But I mean like I said, I'm going to be returning to this video. Like, well, it's like, okay, what did he say here? What did he say here? It's like, you because yeah, it's a part of the process that not a lot of people think about. I mean, there was a joke. I mean, I kind of had a joke for a while where it's like Kickstarter was where you found out how many people were really bad at business. I mean, so this is I think that this is an important, conversation to have.
I'll be very
Yeah.
honest with you. My friend, he always bitches about his comic store.
Right.
I don't know if you're friends with him on
Right.
Facebook.
Who is he?
Jimmy the janitor.
Oh no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
James something has a store up in Maryland.
Okay.
He's always bitching about his store and how
Okay.
hard it is and how his store gets robbed and how people like scam him and how people don't pay him on eBay.
Right.
And my open response to him is business is hard, man. You created a business. You chose to do this.
Right. Yeah.
You chose to engage. If your store is getting robbed and it gets robbed again and again and again, that's on you.
Yeah.
If
Because there's something going on there that's yeah.
I understand that you used to have cards out, on your counter, and then people used to steal them, and now you
Right.
put them behind your
Right.
wall.
Yeah.
I get it. You learned the lesson. It
Yeah.
happens. It's not a big deal. I go to Newberry Comics. They put the Pokemon cards and the One Piece cards behind the
Glass. Yeah.
fridge
Yeah.
there
Sure.
because they get stolen.
Yeah.
They don't put the Digimon stuff behind it. They don't put the baseball top stuff behind it because that stuff isn't targeted the same way the
Right.
Pokemon stuff is targeted
Right.
and the One Piece stuff is targeted. And I'm sure they learned either from other people or just by being in business.
Yeah.
But again, I think people, if you want to learn how to run a business,
Right.
You either run a business, or you watch somebody who runs one successfully, or you watch
Right.
people run it poorly. And I think
You learn from both. That's true. Yeah.
I'm a strong believer that if you're going to run a Kickstarter, you should at least back 10. You should at least back 10
Right.
before you even run one, and you should get those 10 books before you run one.
Just to, I mean, I agree with that. It's like at least like learn what the process is like, so that you decide, so you can decide. It's like, you know what, maybe I should have my book ready before I launch, because I don't like waiting 2 years for a comic.
And
And little things like that.
Ask people. You should ask people, but you know what is? I've also come to realize that a lot of people give really shitty advice.
Well, it's a dime a dozen.
Advice is cheap.
Yeah.
It's when somebody sits down with you and talks about this. And like if somebody seriously said, "Hey, Andrew, you got 30 minutes. Could you explain to me economics?"
Right.
Like I'll consider. I mean, I've helped launch people's podcasts, and I gave somebody 3 hours, and I gave them legitimate information that they would have found out eventually, but I saved them time. And I could still save people time.
Mm-hmm.
And even how to run a business, I could save people time.
Yeah.
But I have no desire to consult. It seems like a miserable job, and I would rather run my eBay business. I would rather research stock.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I can make more money doing that with less headaches.
Yeah, because it's like the thing that you can. I mean, it was funny. It's something that Tyler talks about all the time. That he says that the information that he gives out about marketing is nothing he's made up. It's like it's nothing original to him. He says everything that he talks about, you can find it in a very simple Google search. And I told him, it's like, well, the problem is that most people are unwilling to do that simple Google search. You can give the same advice to 100 people, and you'll be lucky if maybe 2 of them actually listen to you, and maybe one of them will actually implement them.
So I'm lucky where if I went to the owner of the company, and he's a very good salesman, and I was going out on my own, and I said, "Hey, I'm leaving it, and I'm doing this thing, and I'm launching a company." I'm pretty sure if I was at that company for 5-6 years in a different sector, that he would sit down with me. I mean, the company I work for just made a lot of sales. We were at a meeting today where we got like free lunch, and they were talking about their national sales meetings. And so I'm around people who have been doing this where you can't get that information online. There's a difference between sales reps and what Tyler's offering. And what Tyler's giving is really probably good.
Yeah.
But I have access to just a privilege of information. But again, a lot of that information, a lot of people don't need. Like a lot of people need the information that me and you were just speaking about for the last 15 minutes. But they won't listen. They won't do it. They don't want to do it because it sucks to do it.
Right. Yeah. It sucks. It's boring. It's not sexy. It requires time. It requires you to understand it. And
it's also sorry to cut you off. What it is that so I started investing, right? So I'll be very honest. I had a little bit of a head start where I had about 10 grand that I inherited from somebody. Not a lot of money though. And I put it into just a bond index fund that was getting like $26 a month. So fast forward 6 years in, that money, and I added some money to it every year, a little bit here, a little bit there. So maybe I was adding like $1,000 a year. Fast forward 5 years in, that's now worth a lot more.
Right. Yeah.
And so same thing with investing, where I started with $500 in my TD Ameritrade account, and I added more and more and more, and I got dividends and growth. And all of a sudden, when you're getting a dividend of $20 a month, or getting a dividend of $6 a month, it's not cool. It's not exciting. But then when you're getting a dividend of $250 a month, and like,
I see it growing. Yeah, and that's like, oh, okay, this is where this is heading.
and then it's projected that I'm obviously adding more. I have a lot more growth. When you have 200% growth in a stock, and you realize that you bought it dirt cheap, and you're like, oh, this is real money. It's very, very, very different. And then that's what people don't understand, is that you have to realize that the first year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe you're going to have a spin off of a few pennies or a few dollars.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Then what happens is that all of a sudden you get $100 a month. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I have a lot of AT&T shares. I just got a dividend.
Right.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
$216 dividend. That's almost 800 shares of AT&T. That took a while to get to.
Right. Yeah, that's also something that a lot of people also, I guess it falls under that this is not sexy, is that it's not quick either. It's like when you're talking about investing, people, they think about like quick money, quick money, quick money, and it's like, no, it's not quick money. This
What
is the long game that
I
you're
run
playing.
into this, and I'm sure you and Nita run into this too, with marketing, where everybody wants a podcast that does 10,000 views.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the same thing, and it's like we keep explaining to them that's not how this works.
So,
Yeah.
so on my content, and I don't know if you've actually calculated your content on TikTok. On an average TikTok for an interview segment, I do 250 to 300 plays initially within a day or two.
Right.
Which is not bad. All
Mhm.
things considered, but TikTok's not that hard to do that.
Right.
I don't know. Instagram, I'm taking a break from Instagram for a little bit, just because I'm exhausted.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But on YouTube,
Right.
stuff, it doesn't do great on YouTube. On Facebook, I'll do anywhere from 175 to 200
Right.
plays. But then on all the micro content, all that stuff, in a given 6-month period, I'll do about 4,000 to 5,000 plays collectively throughout the whole interview when it's cut up.
Right.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. But the idea is that you now have something that's out there indefinitely that is very targeted. And on this interview, or I just had who did I just have on that's relevant? I'm cutting up Eric Scott Kimmer, who's a voice actor. When that interview's cut up, that collectively between YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Rumble, and Instagram will have about 45 pieces of content.
Huh, wow.
So he's going to have 45 pieces of content that are indefinitely out on the internet.
Right.
And he is my 12th most popular video on YouTube right now in my whole repertoire. And so guess what? He's like front and center on my YouTube page. And moving forward, he's just going to keep climbing up the ranks. Right. And he did that interview once. But that means 185 people have seen it. And I'm not saying 185 people is a lot, but every month that's getting 5, 6, 7 views. Fast forward, I have an interview that's got 9,000 views.
Right.
And that person did the interview once, and it's not even a good interview. It's a pretty shitty interview. I mean, it wasn't.
But you're still getting a benefit from it.
He's getting a great benefit. I mean, 9,000 views is a lot of content that people are continuously watching 5 years later. And that's what I think people forget about interviewing, is that if you're in the game for a long time, don't you want 20 interviews that are just generating content and content and content?
Right.
I was on a show, and that thing got like 700, 800 views, and the people took a spec on me, and oh boy, did I show up. They're like, yo, you came prepared. And I was just whatever, like, yo, dude, you know how much money you're going to be worth? Because I was talking about a lot of the stuff we're talking about here. Is that, I'm like, I kind of have an idea, but I like my job. Nobody's yelling at me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be fine if I don't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, which is really the best position to be in, that no matter what happens, that you're good. That's like, hey, you can literally pick and choose what you're going to actually do. Yeah.
I mean, most it's whatever. I mean, most people don't understand that. There will get a point where I will get sick of my comic business.
Right. Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll sell off the whole assets class. So I have a lot of assets in comics.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. It's probably around 500 to 750,000 worth between cards, pop Funkos, comics.
Right.
So right now it's spinning off. If I get to 100,000, it'll spin off around 28 to 30,000 a year in pure profit.
Right.
And when if I want to stick around for 15 years, that's 450,000.
Right.
In pure profit, and then I'll sell off the rest, and I'll sell off a bunch of it. Even if I sell it off at a loss, I'll probably pull in at that point a little over $1 million.
Right.
On it, and that's why this business is insane.
Right.
Because the AUM, assets under management, I got no problem saying this because I think people need to hear it, is that gets replenished and washed out because that's how the business is set up. So that
Right.
when I want to exit and I completely wipe out my stock, so if I sell 5 comics, I bring in 5 new ones. I sell 5 comics, I bring in 5 new ones. And so there's going to get a point where I will sell off the whole stock for whatever reason I want. Maybe I'm sick of the business. Maybe it's time to unwind the business.
Right. Or the bubble finally bursts, like you were talking about before.
Yeah, and that's what will happen. So that's where I'm at. But and that's what's crazy about my business is that there's real advantages when you have a business like mine because I could sell the core asset,
right?
But I don't have to right now. I could just sit around and just keep it just moving the way I want it to move and extremely efficient. And I can never ever sell it out. And I could just let it spin off 35,000 a year in pure profit. And that's more than enough with the way I'm investing.
Right.
I don't make my real money in this business. I make it by taking that money and hardening up my assets.
Yeah.
Which is what everybody should do because in reality, and I'll just say this, is that if you created an S Corp or a holding company that had dividend stocks and that you took your distributions and bought enough of them that you could then use your dividends to pay for your comic. And then Kickstarter just covers it and you would solve the money problem because your dividends are buying it if you buy enough dividend stocks.
Right.
And so if you bought enough dividend stocks that spun off $6,000 and your comic cost $6,000,
right?
And you just transfer the cash over, and then you go to Kickstarter. You can set your goal for $100, and every year you can just run it off of the interest and not the principal. And then you can go it the other way if you're only going to do a book a year, where you then take that money that your seed money that didn't cost you to run it. So you did $8,000 in that position and it cost you $6,000 for your stocks. You buy more stocks, which then increases it furthermore. And now you have a real holding company, and that's moving money infinitely, and you have infinite money cycle.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I didn't know what I was expecting, but yeah, definitely, I'm holding on to this.
Nobody talks to me in comments.
Yeah. I'm definitely holding on to this episode because it's like the amount of note taking I'm going to be taking later, re-listening to this is going to be like, okay, this.
See, let me ask you a question, right? Yeah. This is the part of comics that confuses me, where I don't think I'm respected in the industry or in any sector as an interview because I haven't produced a comic, and I think it's actually a deficit, and I'm curious what you think of that because I don't think I'm the only one.
Well, there is. I mean, it's like there is this whole thing where it's like, if you haven't done a comic, you shouldn't be giving advice about it. I mean, there is this whole thing. I mean, there is this. If you haven't done it, you shouldn't be giving advice about it. But I kind of think that's just in general. But the thing is, though, is that what you're talking about is an important angle that a lot of comic book people, they really don't think about. I mean, it's like you have people that are like making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a campaign on Kickstarter, but they're perpetually broke. And it's like, well, what's happening here? What's going on here? Because it's, and then it's like, so obviously there's a certain aspect of the business that a lot of people don't understand because, it's not sexy. It requires time and effort to understand.
I mean, I'll be honest.
And the thing is, though, that just because that you haven't done a comic physically, you haven't done a Kickstarter, doesn't mean that what you're saying has no validity. It's just a different angle as to the information that is important, but maybe at the moment it doesn't sound like it has a direct application. But the thing is, though, is like, you kind of need to know this stuff.
What? I mean, the way I see it is that I run a business,
Yeah.
and so the reason why I feel, and I'll be very
Right.
honest, I belong in the conversation, is that I sell a
Yeah.
lot of comics a year.
Right.
I sell a lot of collectibles a year. So the way I see a lot of things is that,
hmm
yeah, I haven't done a comic, but I'm selling your book. So
Right. Yeah.
so I am a customer. I deal with your customers.
Right.
I'm engaging with your customers, but I'm also profitable. It's
Right. You
like
see, and that's the thing, because that's kind of like a thing that me and JD have like kind of like we've kind of been saying when we hear advice, and this is kind of like the thing where it's like, it's like, okay, well, this person says this person and it said this thing, and this person said this thing. Which one should I listen to? And we always end with, well, who made the most money?
is that even technically the right evaluation?
Well, technically no, but it's certainly when you're talking about taking advice from two particular on two, like you look at two campaigns and you're trying to figure out something, right? And if you're deciding that what your goal is to make money, if you take out the art aspect of it, you take out, it's like, okay, we're not talking about
You
artistes,
understand what I'm challenging, though, right?
yeah, no, I do. Um,
I'm
you know,
challenging the unknown side. For those who don't
yeah.
know, where if
Yeah,
somebody made 40,000 and somebody made
yeah,
30,000,
yeah,
and you don't have any other information, you should go with the person
right,
who did 40,000.
right.
If you
Because,
know the person who did 40,000 spent $39,000,
well, that's the catch. Yes, that is the
and the
catch.
person who made 30,000
Right.
spent
Yeah.
10,000, the
Yes.
person who spent
That's
10,000
no,
is much
absolutely.
smarter.
Because I mean, it's like I have, like seen people who it's like, yeah, they're making $20,000-$30,000 on their campaigns, but technically me on a $5,000 campaign is technically making more money because my expenses are so low that I can make more profit on a $5,000 campaign than they can on a $30,000 campaign.
There's a bunch of valuations. Is that it's
Yeah.
A, what is your profit margin?
Right. Yeah.
Also, my store and somebody's doing $1 million
Yeah.
at eBay.
Yeah.
The way that you can evaluate is that if the person who's doing $1 million on eBay only has a 10% profit margin, I have a
Right.
26% profit
Right.
margin.
Yeah.
You could say, well, they're doing more money than me, but
Right.
their merch is more expensive. Their
Right. Yeah,
margins are.
there's always particular variables you have, but it's like, all things, it's like, yeah, but if you're just like everything being equal, and it's like, okay, well, it's like, whose advice should you weigh more? Like I said, it's like we kind of narrow it down. Well, who made the most money? It's a very simplistic way. But the thing is, though, is that, what you're talking about is like really how to really, really clean that engine, and yeah, and it's like I said, it's like there's a lot of people making a lot of money, but they're still broke.
It's
you know
crazy with
and it's
that.
like all the marketing, like they could listen to everything that Tyler says and that part never changes.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
I think I mean, look, I know plenty of
Right.
people make a lot of money, and they don't have
Right.
a lot of money to,
Right.
to play around.
Right. Yeah.
Their marketing isn't the problem.
Right.
Which that their marketing isn't the problem,
hmm
their philosophy isn't the problem.
Right.
It's just they don't have any money, and
Right.
I mean, I get it. I mean, I go to this thing too. I say, look, if people say, oh, I clean up at cons. And I'm like, great, that's fantastic. How much did your table cost? How much did your hotel
Right. Yeah.
cost?
Exactly.
And
Yeah. It's
what is your
really
hourly wage at your job?
right.
And
hmm
how many hours did you work again?
Right.
So I know how much I make per hour pre-tax,
Right.
before taxes, right?
Mhm.
I have a day job, I know it to the T. So I know what I should charge an hour for my time
Right.
on a consulting basis on
hmm
certain topics, and I have a specialty. And
Right.
and in business, I mean, if somebody wants to consult with me, I'm 50 an hour.
Right.
It's because it's my time.
hmm
Um, and on other issues, I charge a lot more. Uh,
Right.
I'm very specialized in digital accessibility, which is nothing to do with this. I charge a
Right.
lot more on consulting for that.
Right.
Way more. I charge like
Right.
150 now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is that I know exactly how much I make. So if I was to be at a
Right.
con for 20 hours,
Yeah.
I'm factoring in what I make at my job as part of it.
Right.
I have to because my time isn't free.
Yeah. Well, also, like I had said before, also I think that also where you probably get a lot of pushback is the fact that a lot of people come into this and they have this mindset that no, the comic itself has to make money. I want to make money off of the comic, and the idea of taking the money from the comic that you make from the comic, and it's actually something else that's really making you the dividends and whatnot, that kind of like short circuits them, because oh, then that means I'm not making money. If I'm making money off of investing in stocks, it means that I'm not making money on comics. Like, the money's not coming from comics, it's coming from stocks. It's like, yeah, but you use the money from the comics to do this, and this is what's like that's, I think that that's where the disconnect is, especially that it's like for some reason they think no, it has to come from the comics.
I
my
mean,
money is going to come from the comics, whether I sell it, whether I make a six-figure campaign on Kickstarter or I sell the IP, but this is going to make me money. And like I said, it's like that's kind of not how it works. We always talk about having to diversify your streams, diversify your money, your income streams, and it's like, yeah, it's like, it's because not one thing is going to really make you money. And I think that that's where a lot of that pushback that you may get comes from as
oh yeah.
well.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
I know why people don't
Right.
like what I say, and I'm perfectly fine with it. And
Right.
I
Well,
actually
it's to
stopped.
their detriment in the end.
I mean, look, I stopped. I stopped looking at
Right.
all this. I stopped doing panels at cons. There,
Right.
there
Yeah.
was a lot of reasons why, and
Hmm.
and when COVID hit, I mean, obviously I changed, and I'm now in a very different place. And,
Right.
you know, I guess I don't have tolerance for the bullshit,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah. Right. It's also what is, because it's funny because I heard something similar from Tyler, because Tyler, he's always getting pushback on his marketing for the same thing, for the kind of like the same reason. It's like people think, oh, that's selling out, that's too much work and blah blah blah. It's like that's not it. And he says that sometimes he just feels like he just wants to stop talking about it because, well, nobody's listening to me anyway. And I told him, it's like, look, like I said, you could say the same thing to 100 people, but you know what? I listen to you.
there's
It
certain
depends
things
on whether you think that's worth it.
I don't disagree with Tyler on marketing.
Right.
I do disagree with Tyler saying about the AI Kickstarter contract. I have a very, very, very controversial view on that.
Right. Oh, I don't know anything about that.
They basically said that artists, from my understanding of reading, is that they have to disclose if you use AI where you got your AI from and
Right.
where's
Okay.
the inspiration. And my problem with that is that that's like saying to a baker who wants to come into your, a shop into your town, hey, you need to disclose all your recipes and your family's recipes. I think it's an incredibly dangerous position. I really do.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like, because it's like, honestly, it's like I would appreciate it if campaigns did say where they were using AI.
So
Because honestly, because as a creator, I want to support other creators.
right.
I mean, I understand the potential of the technology. I really do.
My
You
issue
know,
with it is that if you are going to just do it with AI, you should make it do it with everybody. And
well,
with
no, you see, that's the thing. I mean, I agree too, because just like I think that every campaign should have every artist credited. If you're doing, if you're getting different artists to do covers, they should be credited. Everybody should be on the book, should be credited for what they did on the book, which most campaigns do. It's just that with AI projects, I mean, especially like I said, as a creator myself, I want to support campaigns that support actual people, not people using a generator to come up with stuff. There was like this one campaign I was looking at where they didn't have anybody credited, but the artwork looked AI. Like
I don't
none of
know
the
if you saw my post.
you
Did,
know.
did you, did,
And no, I didn't. And what happened was that then it's like I was trying to find more information. Now, it was a book that I was interested in. It was about a topic that I was interested in. I was interested in, but the there was no artist credited. Like the one artist that was credited was not the artist. Their artwork did not match the artwork that they were advertising in the
so
campaign.
I mean, yeah,
And then
get
on
it.
top of it, the author was also a pseudonym, which made me suspect that the book itself was written by GTP. And it's like, you know what? I'm not. It's like in the end, it's like I had to back away because, like, you know what? This is not the type of project
This is
I
my
wanted. I want to
my
support.
my whole issue is that
Right.
I understand AI art, I understand
Right.
NFTs, I
Hmm.
understand it massive.
Right.
I've done a lot of homework on it, probably more so than other people have. I'm really into the whole AI thing, and not just on the art side, but just like nanotechnology, brain surgeon,
Mhm.
AI art, also teaching with AI and how
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I really do understand the potential of the
the
technology.
the art is the 0.0001% side of it. That's not where the
Right.
stuff is.
Yeah.
Everybody is making a big deal out of it, not realizing that there's a bunch of other shit that's problematic with it outside of it.
Like
Um,
there's other things.
I'm sorry, but AI
Right.
is
Yeah.
not corruption. Is a little bit of a bigger
Right.
problem.
Right.
Little bigger, guys. But my issue is that I don't like the fact that they want disclosure of
Right.
the whole process, and because to me, when you're disclosing, you're opening up and you're eliminating competition. You're exposing something, which
Right.
then allows something to be destroyed very easily, and
I,
you're creating exposure. It's the same thing
right.
where
I
I'm very libertarian on the issue.
right. I mean, because for me, it's like because it's like I've watched. I mean, it's like I have friends in all in different in different creative industries, especially in publishing, and I have literally watched their careers shrink because of AI. And I'm beginning to see that, and that's kind of what I see in terms of being. Now, I don't see it affecting me personally. um I see it affecting industry wide, where never mind the fact that this technology was built on pretty much stolen artwork. um for pretty much a main purpose is to displace the very artists that it's learned from. um, but unfortunately, that is something that's going to have to be settled in the courts system. And it's like, in the meantime, it's not a technology that I'm willing to use right now as it is. Although, like I said, I do see the potential of it. But it's a conversation that I am kind of exhausted with because
Fair
it's a lot of vitriol.
enough.
Um, and it's just like, what, it's like, look, the technology is spreading faster than the laws can catch up with it.
What it is that what people don't
Right.
understand is that this party started in January. The whole AI thing, not even just
Right.
AI art. AI as a general started in January.
Oh, I think it
And
started sooner than that.
so
I mean,
so
it started earlier than that,
I'm
honestly.
I'm a big Michael Saylor fan, and he talks a lot about this.
Hmm.
So what's going on with AI is that the party, according to him and a bunch of other people like Kathy
Hmm.
Wood and a bunch
Hmm.
of other people, basically said it started in January, and there's 60 months. So the real application and the real
Right.
entrepreneurship side of it
Mhm.
started in January, and not even just AI art, just the whole application of it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
not necessarily the AI art of it. And so what people are actually doing with entrepreneurship and different things and other things to make it
Mhm.
work is actually fascinating. And I look at it because I work in QA, and how can AI make my job better? How
Right.
can it
Well,
now?
we have a friend who's actually he's currently training a closed source AI to be an artist assistant for him. He's feeding his artwork into this AI so that he can train it to pretty much help him with his artwork. So, I mean, like I said, I very much understand the potential of it. Like I said, I think that just right now, the way it is, like me personally, I just cannot
So, so
ethically use it right
me and
now.
him, me and Tom
Right.
disagree on that position
Hmm.
because I don't like governments when they say to a business you need to disclose certain things. I don't like
Well,
when you
right,
make it so that somebody goes
right,
and tries to do something and that you want to really subject them and put them
right.
on blast and expose their whole inner workings.
Well,
That's my
well,
problem.
you see, I don't think you see to me from what it sounds like. Like I said, I'm only going by what you're telling me. Um, as a creator, as even just someone who's peruses Kickstarter for projects that I might like to support, I want the books that I read, the books that the content that I consume, like I want to know, it's like, is this from a person, or is this like AI art? The AI art is going to get a lot better, as very quickly. There's going to come a point where I'm not going to be able to tell, and
I'll throw you a test right now. You ready for it?
okay, go ahead.
So this is this image.
Oh, this one, yeah, you know what,
AI art or no? AI art or no?
I'm good really quickly. I'm going to say AI art.
It's not.
Really?
That's Megoro from
Right.
Zenoscope.
And this is, but the thing is, that this is what it's coming to, that it's like that we're not going to know, and it's like, and I think it's going to be even more important for artists to really like show their
This is
process.
this is. I mean, if you look at another Megoro piece, that does not
Right,
look like it. The
right,
reason why this piece looks like it, and this is really
right.
important, is that it's the style of this.
Well, it's because what makes me think it's AI is kind of like the fuzziness of the like kind of like, especially the background, but there's like a certain fuzziness to it. um but what's funny is that I just watched a video of an artist actually trying to imitate that AI fuzziness in his own original artwork. So it's kind of like they're
I
kind
can
of like
pull up an
beating
AI
each
art
other.
for you, and you'll
Okay,
think it's real.
okay,
If
go
you,
ahead, go ahead.
I mean, it might take me a minute
Right.
to find it,
Oh,
but
well. So, like I said, that there was this book that I was interested in, and in the end, what turned me off to it was the fact that I suspected the entire project was done by AI. And in the end, it's like I decided that, you know what, that's kind of defeats the purpose of me wanting to buy certain media, as escapism. It's like there's a certain humanness that I still need in my media. So, and I would appreciate, it's the thing is, so just like I think that like artists should be credited on, when they do work, it's like I want to know, it's like, you know is this an a like, okay, if tell me if the artwork's AI. It's like I bet, what, it's like, whether honestly, it's like maybe it's going a little too far to say, okay, you have to tell us your programs, because it's kind of like saying, not only do I have to credit my artwork, but I have to tell them that I use Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint to do it, and whatnot. Oh, that's definitely AI.
right.
That's definitely AI. That there's a certain, I mean, yeah, yeah.
The point is that, this person's not hiding though that this is AI. They're,
Well,
they're,
which I appreciate. Which I appreciate.
but my point is
It's like,
that
yeah.
this though, I mean, to my point is that, I mean, it's a beautiful piece. Regardless, I think it's a beautiful piece.
Which honestly, I think that that's also part of the discussion that's kind of getting lost, because there's too many people who want to deny that this shit doesn't look good. And
So
even with the blatant mistakes like the basketball pattern, um yeah, there's something very sculptural about it. Yeah, it's like there, yeah, at first glance, yeah, it looks good, but it's it's what it is. It's like and I think that it's a disservice when artists try to argue that all AI art sucks, when they try to
The point
argue
is
that.
that I put that
you
post
know
up not to
Mhm.
start a war. I mean,
Right,
Shikari said, "Oh, it's AI art."
right,
Everybody thinks that's AI art.
right,
That's not AI art.
right.
It
But
would
that's the thing. It's like I've
this
seen
is
people, get accused, or actual artists of getting accused of, like, oh, you're using AI. It's like, no, that's my artwork.
my point.
Yeah.
Putting that whole thing up was that I thought it was funny because I was curious what people were going to think. I really did
Right.
because and I didn't think it was
Mhm.
offensive. I don't think anybody was going to go ape shit on me. And nobody did. But Shikari thought it was AI art,
Right.
and it's really
There
important
are
because
people who think that Shikari is AI.
there's certain things that Shikari does that
I mean, which is funny for Shikari to be, it's like, look, there are people who are thinking that his stuff's AI. That he's
there are certain things in which that every once in a while I'm like, this could
right,
be AI art. This could
right.
be from him.
Yeah, yeah, sure,
Like Shikari did this one
right,
that I showed earlier. This
right.
is hard to tell. That's not AI art. That's not. I'd be hard pressed.
I mean, I guess if I wasn't that familiar with Shikari already, it's like probably, but yeah, but the thing is, though, there's a certain for lack of a better word, there's a certain oddness to Shikari's work that AI can't capture.
No. But Shikari did something
Right,
recently that was like based off of Faces by Raichi,
right,
and it looked AI. It looked
right.
AI. It
Uh-huh.
looked it. It did.
Right.
That to me doesn't look AI. That
No,
looks
I would have to
real.
give you that. That particular piece, like I said, it has a certain oddness to it that,
It,
like the actual AI piece, it has its own oddness, but it's an oddness that
but then you have
that
something like Megoro,
is in
which
that middle. Yeah, where it's
this can go
like,
either way.
yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah,
also, the reason why I think people are confused on this piece is it's the subject.
right.
I think you have an anime-ish girl,
Yeah,
which is sort of in that AI blend.
yeah,
You have her hair a certain way.
yeah,
You have her by a pool. There's definitely a blurred effect on the
yeah,
background, but there's also this. I mean, parts of this are not blurred
right.
out, and you have that weird blend. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Well,
why that piece, and the point I was
right.
trying to make with that piece is that a lot of people say I'm not going to go hire AI art, but I'm like, how can you tell?
Well,
Like,
right. Well, you see, if people actually credited their AI art, we would know. which
but
which I think that Kickstarter is right to ask. I mean, like I said, I don't know how deep they want people to go, because honestly, to say that you use Midjourney or open source or open AI or whatever, I kind of think that's kind of irrelevant. I really do think that's like, look, all I want to know is that is 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 the illustrations in this book AI, because I'm not interested in looking at AI artwork.
because I'll be honest with you, I mean, if I do a
Right.
comic book,
Uh-huh.
I'm not. I mean, I'm gonna probably do interiors normal, but I might do an AI cover. I
Right.
mean,
You
I
know,
think it's
but the thing
interesting.
is, oh, I want to know if that covers AI. Just like I want to know who's credited for your interior pages. I mean, and and I don't think that I don't think that that's unreasonable, just to ask who the credit is. Is there an actual artist?
I think that I mean I read the thing quickly so I could be
Right,
misreading and I'll be the first person to say that.
right,
But my whole thing with it is that I don't think it's so good to start completely disassembling the machine. And I can understand saying, hey, I need if this is all AI art generated, you should know and it should be noted on your campaign.
right. I agree. Yeah.
If you're saying, did you use this software and then you use this, then
I
you use
think that's
Blender,
irrelevant. Yeah,
like
I think that part's irrelevant. Just like I'm not going, like, I'm the artist, but I see no reason to say, oh, I used Photoshop, I used Clip Studio Paint, I used Grammarly on the text. I mean, that's kind of going a
I
little
mixed the
overboard.
red with the blue and the purple, and then I did
Right.
a
Yeah, I think it's
yellow.
going
Like
a little bit overboard.
it
Because
was
also, because also the thing is too, right? It's like a lot of times I want to know who the artist is so I can follow them. So maybe at one point I want to be able to commission them. I want to be able to contact them if I like their artwork enough. So that's like another reason. If you're using art or AI artwork and you're not saying what it is, but maybe it's like, well, is this an artist I can contact? I mean, I would like to know. um but like I said, it's also has to do with, like, I'm not interested in supporting completely AI projects. So I want to be, as a consumer, I want to be able to make that decision. Yeah,
I'm all for it. I don't even
yeah,
think it's an AI problem. I'm being
right,
very honest. I want to know your campaign success rate, your fail rate.
right.
I think that, and look, these numbers get fudged, and which Kickstarter was a lot more lenient,
Right.
sturgent. Is
Uh,
that the word? Like
uh,
stricter,
stringent, stringent.
stringent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I, I wish that they would allow people to launch another product without fully fulfilling, but I wish that there was a track record, and I wish there was
Right.
a scorecard on Kickstarter. I really do.
You know what's yeah, you know what, yeah, I because I think that is a bigger, well, it's like, yeah, that's a problem that Kickstarter needs to take care of, because that's also something I want to be able to know, is that, excuse me, when I support a campaign, it's like I want to know whether you fulfilled your previous campaigns already, because because there's plenty of people who they are able to launch campaigns without fulfilling the previous one. And honestly, it's like I want to know if that's the case,
That's
instead of,
not
yeah.
it's not a disqualifier.
No,
It's
it's
just
not.
you just have a
It's
scorecard.
information. Yeah, I think it's an important piece of consumer
I,
information.
I- I'll throw you a few others that in my
Mhm.
opinion, I'm curious how you feel, is that
Yeah,
how well do you communicate? How
right.
many updates do you make? How
Well,
frequently you update?
well,
This could
that
be a scorecard. It's not hard.
yeah. I mean, it's like, no, I agree. I agree with that too. Because I was talking about this the other day with the whole thing about, the fact that I do my books ahead of time before I launch a campaign. My books are done when I launch a campaign, and about 3 or 4 weeks after a campaign closes, I ship them out. And I was talking about, that shouldn't be a selling point. That should be a given, like every
Oh no.
campaign that I go to, that should be like the base
And let me ask you a
expectation
question, and
for,
hopefully you'll understand the
for me.
joke.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you a fan of Patrick Starr,
The makeup guy, or the guy from Sponge, or the SpongeBob character.
the SpongeBob character?
The yeah, sure. It's like I'm familiar with. I've never really sat down and watched
Where
the
does he
cartoon,
where
but
does he live? Where does
he
he live?
lives under a rock.
So I'm going to ask you a question to be very nice about this, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
Uh-huh.
Have you been living under a rock?
Yeah, I know that. You see, but that's the thing, because it's like, yeah, because that's what it is. Like, I don't understand why
Because it is
my
a selling point.
expectation is the anomaly.
You getting me your book in 4 weeks is a selling point.
Yeah, it is a sell. Yeah, that's what everybody tells me. It says no, it is a selling point because that's how rare it is on Kickstarter.
At least you were a good sport about the joke.
Yeah,
I figured you knew I was going
yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, because that's what I getting told. That it's like, no, it's like I said, that it's like everybody. It's like what I'm doing is actually the outlier, not the expectation. And
We'll throw
it's
Paul.
weird for me.
I'll throw Paul Gomez, where
Yeah.
Paul Gomez
Uh-huh.
delivers a good book
Right.
relatively quickly.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm waiting on his next book. It's a little slower than I want, but
Right.
it's not a big deal. But he delivers a good book. He gets it to me relatively
Right.
quickly. And there you go. You know
Yeah.
who also does a good job? Alt Simpson does a good job, where he gets me his books relatively quickly.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I'm going to back another one of his projects. He
Right.
gets me his projects relatively quickly.
The
You
one
know,
thing, Alton Simpson, he's at the Bunny in Space, right?
yeah, and
But
he
yeah,
does Witches of Westchester because
right. Yeah,
I'm
he does
from
those. if it's one thing that I can give, considering going that kind of dovetailing to the whole thing about people not admitting like what exactly they do all this for, if I can give Alton credit for one thing, is that he's incredibly unapologetic for the type of books that he does and how he does them. Because I interviewed him once and I forgot the question that I asked, but his answer was pretty much what he did was when he went on Kickstarter, like because usually I ask, I was like, oh, what's your passion, this, that, and the other thing. And he goes, no, what he did is that he went on Kickstarter, saw what sold, right, looked at what artists were selling, and then that's what he based his campaigns on. It's like, okay, it's like, okay, these artists are selling covers. Let me get a Shikari. It's like the half naked girls, babes in space. That's the first comic he's going to do. And so I got to give him credit for being incredibly unapologetic for that, because again, am I living under a rock? So many other artists who do the same type of book are so in denial about the type of book that they're doing.
Look at my eBay store. I was into Zenescope.
Right.
They were 80% of my market. And then I dropped them down to 20 because there's two reasons. Their books weren't moving.
Right.
I love Zenescope. I love Zenescope story, but it wasn't working. And then I looked at Power Hour. Power Hour was selling. So I bought some Power Hour and I started selling it.
Right.
Great. Then I bought some Merc Mag.
Right.
Great. It started working. And I'm killing it. Now I like Born of Blood. I just bought some more Merc, Miss Me Out, the Barbie stuff. Great.
Right.
The Barbie stuff on Power Hour was great. It made me a fucking fortune.
Right.
I bought 73 books for $75.
Damn.
And I sold them for $220.
Right.
I mean, that's unbelievable margins. Is the point.
Right.
So great. Bunch of Power Hour shit. The Supergirl Power Hour looking like Cat Timpth. Awesome. Made a bunch of money on that shit. Then I went over and I looked at Mount Olympus, and I'm like, they're referencing everything under the sun that's relevant. I'm going to buy some of that shit.
Right.
Because guess what? It's selling. So apologetic. I completely get it. Every time I have a conversation with Paul Simpson, it's always a good conversation.
Right.
I like this stuff. I bought, some Bunny in Space Shikari stuff.
Right.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I'm happy to have you on my show. It's always a good time. But no. I mean, I might go to his event in Jersey. But the reason why I interviewed him is that he had a book called Witches of Westchester.
Right. Yeah.
I grew up in Westchester, New York.
Right. Because I think I think he's doing one of each county, because it's like he did also Werewolves of Brooklyn. I think he's doing a book for every county.
He did something. He did something in Brooklyn. He did something, I think, in New Jersey.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But he wouldn't admit that it was Westchester, New York. And I'm like, it's Westchester, New York. You have to admit
of course.
it.
Come on. Where else would it be?
There's also Westchesters. I'm like, no, there's not.
I mean, I think he's doing one for every New York county, which is funny. But it's yes. So my expectations as a customer seems to be the outlier on Kickstarter. But you know what? In the end, if saying that, it's like my book is ready to go and you don't have, it's like, and you can read in my comics, in my comments section, because short of Kickstarter having that rating system, which honestly I do wish they would have, but I don't think they want to do that. It's like, you know what? 4 weeks you're getting my shit. It's like, so you can.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question, because, and I'll tell you my answer after. My thoughts. What is a reasonable expectation on a campaign for a floppy that you feel should be reasonable?
That I feel at most
not 4 weeks.
Months.
Not 4 weeks.
3 months. 3 months. 6 months if you're printing overseas.
So I think that my view on a single floppy that's 22 pages, honestly, I think it should be 2 months. I don't think you need 3 months. I think that you and I understand if you have to get it done, but I don't really care.
Well, it's like you said, because it's like I think that at 3 months, that's when I start to get antsy.
I'll be honest. I get antsy. So I have a bunch of retail packages, right?
Right. Yeah.
I have right now 4 retail packages.
Uh-huh.
I'm getting really antsy. Some of that shit is 6 months old.
Right.
I'm getting annoyed, man.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, because it's like, like I said, it's like it's like 3 months, 3 months for floppies, 6 months for overseas books. Like if they're printing overseas, because honestly, anything beyond that, because here's also the thing too. 2 weeks after your Kickstarter ends, you get the money from Kickstarter.
Oh, I know. I
The
remember.
longer you're sitting on that money, the bigger chance that when you finally get the book ready, that money's not going to be there anymore. Because remember, it's like, look, we just spent the entire almost 3 hours talking about kind of how questionably financially savvy most people on Kickstarter are. And if it's one thing that I have seen way too many times, is that if they take too long to make their book, they have problems shipping it and even producing it because they spent the money.
You want to hear how crazy?
2 weeks after they got it.
This is what I did. So I ran a campaign for this show. Oh, I got a lot of shit kicked out of me. Pissed off a lot of people. People are still pissed at me. Don't really care. I'm doing just fine. It actually set up barriers in a lot of ways for many people. It was a healthy experience, and I think it was important. It ended certain relationships, but that's neither there. For the better. But hey, once I tell you who it is, you'll understand. But I'll do it off air. But one of the things is that got my money. I paid for my StreamYard and I paid for my Hootsuite.
Right.
Then I had like $150 left, and I had a good time with it.
Right. Okay.
That was the end of that. That was the end of the money for the year.
There you
go. That's all I needed. I had $150, and wound up basically just taking it and investing it.
Right.
And I had sponsor money that was also in play. So there you go. And it worked. And I got no problem with my campaign. And if I was to ever do this again, and I probably will, all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, I get a lot of requests. This is just guaranteeing your spot for $5 on my show.
Right.
And that's that. If you want a guaranteed spot, it's $5. You're not paying for an interview. You're paying for the right for an interview.
Oh, I see.
There's a big difference between those two things, because at this stage, in my first year, I did 90. In my second year, I did 150 interviews.
Wow.
And then my third year, I did 127. So I was doing 4 interviews a week.
Right.
At my prime. And I could easily do 6. But
the whole paying for interviews is also a very, very controversial idea.
But the way I viewed it is that you're guaranteeing a spot when you want an interview, because I get booked up.
Right.
So if you have a campaign and you need an interview, guess what? That's what you're paying for. If you don't want to pay for it, run the risk.
Right. Yeah.
If you hit me up and I have only 16 spots and it's September, right now I have potentially 40 people want to come on my show in September. I have 16 spots.
Right.
And I haven't even touched wrestlers yet and hit that.
Right.
So this is the problem that everybody's going to learn really quickly, is that I have no room for you.
Right.
In September. And it's not that I'm trying to be mean.
Right.
It's that, what are you bringing to my table beyond?
Right. Yeah. Tyler has spoken about that sometimes too.
Me and Tyler had the interview that spoke about this.
Yeah.
Do you know the story of that?
Someone, I know that it was based on somebody coming to him with, like, I guess they had a stable of people looking for interviews.
Yes. Same with me.
And Tyler was saying, it's like, wait, these people pay you to book you onto shows?
Let me explain what happened.
Yes. And then Tyler said, it's like, well, they should be paying me. What's the cut that I get?
I have to ask you a question. Who do you think let Tyler knew about that situation of the guy?
I don't know any more details than that.
Take a guess. Take a guess who informed Tyler.
Who informed Tyler?
About the person who had a stable of guests and they were paying the booker. Who do you
Oh,
think informed Tyler?
I guess you maybe. It's
Yup.
like,
Yup.
uh-huh.
They said it to Tyler, and Tyler was like, "What the fuck?"
Right. Yeah.
And this is one of the
Right.
things where
Yeah.
me and Tyler, I jumped on Tyler,
Right.
and people, I think people were hemming and hawing about it because they're like,
Right.
"Wait a second, you guys have a point here
Yeah.
because you're not getting paid, but somebody's being paid in this circumstance."
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And this is one of the things where
Yeah.
it's very, very tricky, where if you're booking somebody on a
Yeah.
show
Uh-huh.
and I'm not getting a piece of the action,
Right.
I
Yeah.
understand that, the theory, the
Right.
problem here is that the person is already paying who's the
Mhm.
guest. And
Right.
they don't want to pay twice, but you gotta realize that, like, do you not respect me as
Right.
an interviewer? Do you not respect my show?
Right.
Like, are you unaware? And I understand that it's so complicated,
Right.
and there's no right or wrong answer on this. But at the same time, if I know somebody's using a booker and they come to me, I'm like, my solution back is saying, look, I know you're using a booker,
Right.
and this is what I charge, because
Right. Yeah.
in the interest where if I'm not part of this transaction,
Mm-hmm.
I would rather reserve the spot for somebody who is
Right.
not necessarily trying to screw me indirectly.
Right. Yeah. No, no, yeah. I mean, because it's like what I didn't understand about the conversation is that people got mad at the idea of Tyler getting money, of demanding money, but nobody found it odd that there was this guy getting paid to book shows.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do want to give you a chance to promote your book because we did not speak out anything with your book.
Well, I mean, well, yeah, I know, right? It's like because it's like I said, it's like I'll be going back on this video, taking notes of everything because, like, yeah. So, yeah. So the book that I have, that I'm running, that I'm launching this Friday on Kickstarter is Eagle Raven Air the First Unicorn. It's issue 7 of my series, and the story is about a unicorn princess exiled into the mortal realm after she is betrayed by her elf prince husband to be, and dragons overtake her kingdom. And but when Eagle Raven, the main character, becomes an unwitting pawn in a noblewoman's attempt to avoid an arranged marriage, she trains to become a knight with the help of an unlikely trio of blacksmiths, hoping that she can ultimately win a king's favor and free her people from the dragons. So, like I said, this is already issue 7 of a 15-issue miniseries. And of course, as I showed before, I also have the trade paperback of the first 4 issues for everyone who is interested, who would rather get a trade paperback than an individual issue. It is on pre-launch right now. I'm sure you're going to put the link in the show notes. So
Already in there.
Oh, it's already in there. So it is in pre-launch. So if people hit the notify me button, they will get notified by Kickstarter when the campaign goes live on Friday. This is a fantasy adventure. It's a mature audience telling of the classic hero's journey with a soap opera twist. It features character relationship center stories with in a fantasy setting with the unicorns, dragons, elves. If the initial description didn't let on, it didn't let on. So like I said, it's a 15-issue limited series. And yeah, and it's like this is issue 7, and like I said, this is ready to ship. It's ready to ship. This is the proof, the proof copy that I got from the printer the other day. And yeah, for those of you not living under a rock, you will be getting, after the campaign ends, you will be getting the book 3 to 4 weeks after the campaign ends. But if anything hiccups, because like with printers and whatnot, although that hasn't been an issue since the whole lockdown thing kind of cleared up, I am very up to date with any information that may delay anything. So, but the thing is, though, you're not waiting 2 years for an issue. So So I really do hope that this is a book that your audience might be interested in. I do have variant covers on it for people who like to collect those things. So you can check that out. Hey, look, it's the environment. I was talking about you have to, you kind of have to play with the environment that you're in, right? So I do have variant covers on the campaign for people who like to collect those things. So, like I said, I will be launching on Friday. So make sure you hit the link to get notified. So.
And then obviously, where can people find you, follow you,
Oh,
all that stuff?
absolutely. Yes. If you want to learn more about me and my artwork and all the other books and campaigns that I do, you can follow my main portfolio site at egoworks.com, EGOWORKS. That's where you can find links to all of my galleries and social media sites, but I mostly post to Facebook. If you're interested in seeing sketches and current work in progress and any live updates that I may have at the moment. And remember that you can also catch me on YouTube as well on my channel, Daphne Lage Art, where I have videos on how I make my comics. And also I run a weekly, semi-weekly live stream on Wednesdays, 4 p.m., 4 to 6 p.m., where I do a live stream where I'm doing live artwork and talking to the chat as well. So if you want to have a conversation, more than happy to have a conversation during the show. So that's at my channel at Daphne Lage, Lage Art. But the link is also, everything is at my website. So I try to make it easy for everybody.
And then I'm just going to quickly say what I got to say. Obviously, you need to support indie comics. And the way you do that is you actually back Kickstarters. And when a book is not on Kickstarter, but it's in somebody's shop or at a con, you buy it. If you missed it, or if you need another copy, or you want a variant, it's a big deal and it helps. Every little bit helps. Or if somebody has another book that you don't particularly, let's say you don't like their Kickstarter, but they have another comic, you should support that book if you like that book, because that also helps to support what they want to do directly and indirectly. And so that's something that you should do. And then following people on social media makes a huge difference as well. Whether you buy their book or not, because it does help, and sharing it out is so important in this stage of the game in everything that everybody's doing. And so that's something that's very important. And then as far as I'm concerned, obviously I have Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. You Google Pop Anime Comics, I will pop up. And I guarantee you that there's an interview, almost 500 interviews I've done in my career so far. So there's an interview for you. I don't know what your taste is, everybody, but I've interviewed everybody from porn stars to crypto people. So, and Raven Gregory does not count. But Pat Chan does. Chan does.
There you go.
But I digress right there. There is an interview for you, and I cannot promise that I will make you smarter, but I can assure you that you will be entertained.
So well, I felt both on this episode, so I feel smarter. There's a lot of very important information that I definitely have to chew on, and I was definitely entertained. Thank you so much for bringing me on your shows. It's like you know what, honestly, it's the type of conversation we could have kept going, but I think at the 3-hour mark, it's like it's a little late for me. So but
fair enough. So on that note, and I'm just going to say it again, is that support indie, and I'm going to give you the final word.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much is that. It's like, you know what? It's like there's a lot of comics out there, 1,600 in the past 6 months alone. But you know what? It's like independent comics is where you're going to find the books that you're looking for. It's like you're going to find something in independent comics that's going to interest you in every topic, every genre, everything that you're interested in, you're going to find it in indie comics. It takes a little bit sometimes to find what you're looking for, but it's there. The content that you are looking for is being done in independent comics. So like I said, I hope that everybody can check as much out. And like I said, if you're into fantasy comics, I got plenty. So like I said, I'll be launching on Friday. So at least you could start there. You could start with my comic on Friday. if you're looking for independent comics to start with. So
I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody, and that is